Welcome to the fantasy audiobook, The Opening Fusion in One Punch Man. Chapter 21. Everyone, look at Bai Yi and Colonel Smoker fighting. Someone not far away noticed the fight between Bai Yi and Smog and shouted loudly. What? Why did Bai Yi fight with Colonel Smoker? How could this happen? What happened? The crowd that had dispersed before gathered around again, nervously watching the fierce battle in the center. On one side is Colonel Smoker, and on the other side is Bai Yi, who they regard as a role model. They never imagined that these two characters would actually fight. White fist. After Smoker turns his arms into smoke, he extends his smoke-formed fists and violently launches them towards Bai Yi. The two fists spiraled and intertwined in the air, leaving a long line of white smoke in the air, like a roaring dragon. Bai Yi sneered, "It's all bells and whistles." Bai Yi aimed at the dragon's head and punched it, causing the entire smoke dragon to collapse. "Although you are strong, don't underestimate me, you fool." Smoker turns the lower body into the shape of smoke, making the lower body act like a jet, flying quickly by rapidly spraying smoke. Leaving a large amount of smoke around Bai Yi to confuse Bai Yi, Smoker constantly shuttles through the smoke, launching attacks from time to time. White Yoruichi kicked away the juju coming from the right, and punched Smoker in the chest again. Smoker quickly used elementalization again, his fist passed through his chest, and Smoker was unharmed. Bai Yi snorted. It was indeed Logia's devil fruit. The ability to elementalize was really annoying. Without mastering the armament Haki, there is really no particularly good way to deal with the Logia fruit. It can only launch attacks again and again, constantly consuming the physical strength of the Logia fruit user. Although Bai Yi was unable to cause effective damage to Smoker, Smoker was even more powerless against Bai Yi. He didn't even know why Bai Yi was so powerful, whether it was strength, speed, or reaction. After a battle, he didn't cause any harm to Bai Yi, and his physical strength was almost half consumed. If this continues, I'm afraid I won't be able to hold on for long. Bai Yi is so strong. Colonel Smoker used his fruit power, but he still couldn't defeat him. If I want to marry, I must marry someone as handsome and strong as Bai Yi. The male soldier on the side said helplessly, "How long have you been so crazy? Hurry up and find a way to stop this fight." "How to stop it? We are not even qualified to participate in this battle." At this time, the battle between Bai Yi and Smoker also entered a fever pitch, and Bai Yi was tired of this ineffective battle. This strengthened Byakuya's idea of going to the Marine Elite training camp to learn Haki. "Hey, besides elementalization, do you have any other methods? It's boring to keep fighting like this." Smoker looked focused, still hiding in the smoke, and making surprise attacks on the White Knight from time to time. "You're still here," Bai Yi said impatiently. "Do you really think I can't do anything to you if you become an elemental?" Bai Yi sensed the timing of Smoker's appearance, and when a 10-hand strike came from behind, Bai Yi, instead of avoiding it, faced him. "Let go." Bai Yi let out a low groan and snatched the 10 hands away from Brother Smoke. Then the whole person rushed into the smoke, sensed Smoker's position, waved the 10 snatched hands, and slashed down suddenly. Bang! There was a deafening sound of steel interlacing in the smoke, and the 10 hands in Smoker's hand were directly knocked away more than 10 meters away. Bai Yi waved his 10 hands and hit Smoker's abdomen with a sweep, forcefully knocking Smoker out of his elemental state. Bai Yi didn't hold back this time, and a bright red mark appeared on Smoker's abdomen, causing severe pain. Smoker felt that his whole body was broken in half by the stick, and even moving was a luxury. Bai Yi put his 10 hands on Smoker's chest to prevent Smoker from using elementalization again. The outcome has been decided. The onlookers looked shocked and said, "Colonel Smoker actually lost." They simply couldn't believe what was happening. Colonel Smoker is a user with the ability of the Logia Devil Fruit. Furthermore, Colonel Smoker was the number 1 in the 25th Marine Elite training camp at the same time, and he was defeated by Bai Yi, who is not even a newcomer. At this time, a doubt arose in everyone's mind: how strong is this Bai Yi? Smoker lay on the ground and struggled to prop himself up. Looking at Bai Yi, who looked as usual in front of him, he couldn't help but feel a strong sense of frustration in his heart. As a Logia fruit user, he lost to a person who didn't even know Haki. And the main reason for the failure turned out to be the seafloor stone weapon he carried. Such a blow was too heavy for Smoker, who always had a high self-esteem. Smoker unconsciously recalled what teacher Zephyr said to him in the elite training camp. Smoker, don't think that because you are a Logia user, you can only develop fruit abilities and relax the training of other abilities. If you always have such a mentality, you will definitely suffer big losses in the future. Quote. At that time, Smoker did not take Zephyr's words seriously. In his opinion, the three Marine generals Akainu, Kizaru, and Aokiji are all Logia Devil Fruit users who have developed the fruit's abilities to the extreme. He became the top figure on the sea. And he is also a user with Logia Devil Fruit ability. As long as he develops the fruit ability well, he will definitely become a strong man like the three generals. But now it seems that I was wrong, very wrong. Bai Yi looked at Smoker lying on the ground with a lost expression, and couldn't help but frown. I didn't hit him on the head with the stick. Did I hit him stupidly? Hey, is it comfortable lying on the floor? Hearing Bai Yi's words, Smoker woke up from his trance and climbed up from the ground with difficulty. Bai Yi asked, when I attacked you just now, what was your first thought? Smoker pondered for a moment. You betrayed Marine, I want to arrest you. Then what if I don't cooperate? Then, I will find a way to kill you. Bai Yoruichi clapped his hands and said, that's it. Only then did Smoker understand why Bai Yi suddenly attacked him. It turned out to be because of his previous problems. This made Smoker feel dumbfounded for a moment. Can't you just talk about something? Do you have to give me a good beating? But it was precisely because of this beating that Smoker realized his shortcomings and understood his direction. Smoker took a deep breath and said, thank you. Bai Yi looked at Smoker in astonishment. Good guy, this. Isn't this really going to knock me out? Those who participate in the Marine Elite training camp need to train briefly in Rogue Town for a period of time. Naturally, someone from Marine headquarters will come to pick them up within a week. Bai Yi naturally does not need to participate in such relatively basic training. Such intensity of training has no effect on him at all and is just a waste of time. Regarding Bai Yi's special treatment, other soldiers only took it for granted. There is no way, who makes people strong. Perhaps the soldiers who had never seen the previous scene might have some complaints in their hearts. But none of the soldiers who had seen Bai Yi fight with Smoker felt that Bai Yi was pretending not to participate in the training. In order to eliminate the possible dissatisfaction of a small number of people, Colonel Smoker even said that as long as someone can defeat him like Yoruichi Shiro, then, he does not need to participate in training. Defeat Smoker. They can only entertain themselves a little bit about this kind of thing, but no one dares to challenge it. It's not like everyone is Bai Yi's monster. As a result, Bai Yi has become the most laid-back Marine in Rogue Town. Compared with the hard time of running around on the sea looking for pirates for a month before, now this life of just going out and eating when I have nothing to do is simply paradise. On this day, just as Bai Yi was about to go out again, Smoker suddenly came. Want to go out for a walk? I happen to have nothing to do today. Let me go out with you and be your guide. Since Bai Yi defeated Smoker, Smoker's attitude towards Bai Yi is no longer the previous attitude of his superiors towards his subordinates. The two now get along as equals. For a normal person, if he was defeated by his subordinates in front of his subordinates, and he did not look for opportunities to retaliate, he would be broad-minded. Smoker not only did not retaliate, but also treated Bai Yi as a friend. It is estimated that only an unusual character in Marine like Smoker can do such a thing. Bai Yi also has no ill feelings toward characters like Smoker. Whether it's from the original novel or from their interactions over the past few days, Smoker can bear the word justice. Under the leadership of Smoker, Bai Yi drank all the famous taverns in Rogue Town. The two of them went out early in the morning and drank until the sun went down before starting to walk back. There was no one in the square in Rogue Town that was originally bustling with people. There was only a tall execution platform. Under the bright moonlight, it cast a long shadow facing the direction of the Marine base. Smoker looked at the execution platform with drunken eyes and murmured, Bai Yi, what do you think Roger was thinking before he died? Bai Yi pouted and said, who knows what Roger is thinking? I'm not the roundworm in his stomach. 20 years ago, I saw with my own eyes the famous One Piece, Roger being executed here, and heard him tell the news about One Piece before he died. Everyone who heard the news went crazy and rushed out to sea to find Roger's treasure. It was from this time on that the number of pirates on the sea increased dramatically, and vicious incidents occurred one after another. I saw the ugly appearance of people after losing their restraints. At the same time, I also had the idea of joining Marine to protect civilians. However, after first joined Marine, I discovered that Marine's justice is not exactly the justice I expected when I was a child. There are unspeakable ugliness among Marines. Some people even wear Marine skins and do things more disgusting than pirates, but I can't stop them. So I was confused. After graduating from the Marine Elite training camp, I took the initiative to apply to return to my hometown of Rogue Town. At the very least, I want to use my own ability to protect my hometown from pirates. Quote. But the pirates seem to be endless. They kill a group today, a group tomorrow, and another group the day after tomorrow. I am really tired of killing. Listening to Smoker's words, Bai Yi had a complicated expression and couldn't help but sigh. Smoker really drank too much, and he really regarded himself as his friend, so he spoke his true feelings to himself. Over the years, he has indeed been too tired. Bai Yi said softly, as long as the greed in people's hearts does not disappear, people will continue to go to sea and become pirates. There is no way around it. Smoker put his head in his hands and said distressedly, is there really no way to stop it? Of course. Smoker's eyes lit up, and he grabbed Bai Yi's arm excitedly, what can I do? Bai Yi spat out a few words, kill them all. As soon as he finished speaking, Smoker suddenly felt a chill, as if the temperature dropped several degrees out of thin air. The biting cold made the drunk Smoker wake up instantly and hesitated, isn't this the method we should take now? Bai Yi shook his head and said, it's different. The methods used now are too gentle. Those big pirates who are captured are not killed, but they are still imprisoned in Impel Down City. Smoker argued, but this is because if you kill those big pirates, their devil fruit abilities will turn into devil fruits again and appear on the sea. If it was picked up by other pirates, it would probably cause big losses again. Quote, it will be dangerous if it is picked up by other pirates, but what if it is found by our Marine? Is it difficult to find the devil fruit with the strength of our Marine? Marine's current behavior is to stop eating because of choking. When he is worried that the enemy will become stronger, why doesn't he think about how to make himself stronger? Bai Yi's words made Smoker fall into deep thought. Although what Bai Yi said was good, such a move was a double-edged sword. If he didn't do it right, he could easily hurt himself. So what if it is really picked up by pirates? Lousy can kill the previous esper of the fruit, so he will naturally be able to kill the next esper. I want to see if we continue to kill like this, will those pirates still dare to eat the devil fruit after picking it up? Although Bai Yi's voice was not loud, it was like thunder exploding in Smoker's ears. That's right, how can you do things if you are always afraid of this and that? Lousy can kill your last one, so he can also kill your next one. If Marine finds this devil fruit first, it will enhance Marine's strength. Smoker said excitedly, what else? If there is anything else, the 4 pirate emperors of New World cannot handle it. As long as the 4 emperors exist, it is like setting an example for the pirates below and inspiring their desire to become pirates. Smoker said sadly, but the strength of the 4 emperors pirate group is too powerful, we can't handle it at all. Bai Yi secretly thought, it's hard to say whether he can't handle it or doesn't want to handle it. Ding. Congratulations to host for having a huge impact on the thinking of the original character, Smoker, rewarded with world source power, 500 points. The system prompt that had not sounded for a long time sounded again. Is it okay to influence thoughts? Isn't this too abstract? In other words, Smoker is a relatively important character in the original work, so he can gain world power just by influencing his thoughts. Bai Yi's thinking is not unfounded, if we follow Garp and Roger's template. Smoker and Luffy are perfect replicas. In order to hunt down Luffy, Smoker even abandoned his hometown and went directly from the East China Sea to the New World. The official positions ranged from colonel in the branch to lieutenant general in the headquarters. The amount of Luffy's bounty has also increased from 30 million to 1.5 billion, and he is known as the 5th Emperor of the New World. It's a pity that this 5th Emperor is a false emperor, and was knocked back to his original shape by Kaido's stick. Of course, this is all for later. However, if such a method can be used to obtain world source power, Bai Yi can consider how to train his ventriloquism. When the time comes, just come to a group of Confucian scholars and brainwash a group of people, wouldn't that make a lot of money? Next day, early morning. After Bai Yi woke up, he opened the data panel. Host, Bai Yi. Template. One Punch Man, Saitama. Fusion degree, 10%. World source power, 515. Special skill, Imperial Engine. Fusion degree 10%, 11%, it costs world source power, 400 points. It was a bit painful to increase the fusion level a little, leaving only 115 points of world source power, and suddenly became a pauper again. However, the effect was still very obvious. Bai Yi could clearly feel it, and he became stronger. I was thinking about exchanging characters from the store or opening a secondary exchange store. Now it seems like it's all a daydream. It's better to make yourself stronger first before considering these things. Bai Yi thought about it carefully, and now the only way to quickly obtain a large amount of world source power is to improve his military rank. Bang bang bang. Suddenly there was a knock on the door. Smoker's voice sounded outside the door. Bai Yi, are you awake? If so, let's fight again. Maybe Bai Yi's words last night successfully stimulated Smoker and made Smoker realize his shortcomings. So I came here early in the morning to fight Bai Yi. Bai Yi was playing the gate of opening. When he saw Smoker, who was a little excited, he said helplessly, I don't want to fight with someone like you. It's a waste of time and energy. Bai Yi doesn't know how to use Haki arms yet, and he doesn't have sea tower stone weapons. If you fight Smoker, you can only use up your stamina. If you don't have the time, you might as well take a nap. Smoker naturally understood what Bai Yi meant, and hurriedly patted his chest and promised, I promise not to use the fruit ability during the battle. Bai Yi asked suspiciously, don't use the fruit's ability. Yeah, I promise. Shiro Yoruichi looked at Smoker with disgust, you don't have any masochistic tendencies, do you? Smoker's face was covered with black lines, and white smoke began to emit from his head when he was so angry. Do you know how to speak? What does it mean to have masochistic tendencies? He simply wanted to train abilities other than fruits. Seeing that Smoker was getting angry, Bai Yi quickly agreed. If someone wants to be beaten, then he should be beaten. Anyway, it's not him who is hurting. On the training ground, the soldiers who were supposed to be training all gathered together and started talking in a hurry. I heard that Colonel Smoker is going to fight Bai Yi again. What's wrong with Colonel Smoker? He still fights even though he can't defeat him. That's right, he was beaten so badly by Bai Yi last time. Because of the mark on his abdomen, Colonel Smoker didn't unbutton his shirt for 3 days. I have been following Colonel Smoker for 3 years. The first time I saw Colonel Smoker buttoning up his shirt, I almost died of joy. The male soldier became happier and happier as he talked, with an indescribable expression on his face, joy. Others around suddenly saw Smoker standing behind the soldier who was speaking, and the murderous intent was almost written on his face. Everyone immediately lowered their heads, fearing that they would be spotted by Smoker, but the soldier who spoke did not realize that the danger was coming. Seeing that no one was laughing, he was a little surprised and said, What? Don't you think it's funny? Anyway, I thought it was quite funny. I ate 2 extra bowls of the dinner that was given to me that day. Dark words popped out from Smoker's teeth, Mom, if it's really so funny, you'll have to eat more for dinner in the future. If you don't eat enough, you won't be able to sleep. Mom said miserably, Colonel Smoker, I was wrong. Sure enough, people all like to seek death. Mom is, and so is Smoker. One likes to talk nonsense, and the other likes to be beaten. Dasichi, lend me your knife. Oh, all right. Tashi awkwardly took off Komura Shigur from his waist and carefully placed it in Bai Yi's hand. Because Smoker's weapons are specially made of sea stone, their hardness is far beyond that of ordinary weapons. Shiyeyu is one of the 50 good swordsmen, and its own hardness is no worse than that of Heilu stone, so Bai Yi borrows the knife from Daski. Rub. The sound of the long knife rubbing against the scabbard is very pleasant. The blade is cold, the blade is too thin, and the overall look is slightly delicate. At first glance, it is a knife for women. Smoker held 10 hands and said in a deep voice, Bai Yi, attack me. Bai Yi sighed. It was the first time that someone had made such a mean request, and it seemed that it would be impossible not to satisfy him. Then be careful. Before Byakuya finished speaking, he appeared in front of Smoker, holding Komura Shiger with one hand, and slashed hard. Without using the fruit's ability, Smoker couldn't dodge at all, so he had to barely raise his hands to parry. Bang! A huge force was transmitted from the 10 hands to Smoker's arm. The terrifying power made Smoker unable to parry, and the weapon came out directly. Smoker's entire figure seemed to be embedded on the ground, with only his upper body exposed, which was very miserable. Dashiki, who was watching the battle from the sidelines, rubbed his eyes and put on his glasses again, only to find that the scene in front of him had not changed. Colonel Smoker couldn't even catch White Yoruichi without using his fruit ability. It didn't seem so bad last time, right? Smoker's head was dizzy and he said in disbelief, this guy's strength seems to have become stronger again. His speed seems to have become faster. How is this possible? It's only been a few days. The scene of being beaten last time is still vivid in my mind. Is the gap between people really that big? Looking at Bai Yi's young face, he looked at himself, who was already nearly 30 years old. Smoker momentarily had the idea of burrowing into the soil and never coming out again. Bai Yi knelt down and asked with a smile on his face, do you still want to fight? Smoker said decisively, fight. Of course we have to fight. After Bai Yi leaves, where can he find someone as strong as Bai Yoruichi in the East China Sea? Wouldn't it be a loss if we don't take advantage of this opportunity to play more games? And after Bai Yi said those words to Smoker last night, Smoker felt that Bai Yi must not be a simple person. So young, but possessing great strength. And in just a few days, his strength has improved a lot, and he is extremely talented. The most important thing is that Bai Yi's words are very pleasing to his own taste, which makes his blood that had been silent ignited again. Thinking back to his childhood dreams, Smoker suddenly had an idea. White Knight, what are you doing? Don't you want to be beaten? If you don't want to be beaten, then I'll go back to sleep. Bai Yi returned the knife to Dashiki and walked towards the dormitory. Smoker said in a serious tone, Bai Yi, can you end the era of great pirates? Can the age of great pirates be ended? How is it over? Is it over when all the pirates are killed? If the pirates are gone, there will still be Tianlong people. I can't predict the future, how do I know? I just know that if I become stronger now, at least I won't die at the hands of others in the future. Bai Yi looked at the embarrassed Smoker curiously. Based on his years of experience in reading online articles, he probably guessed what Smoker was thinking. You want to follow me? Smoker nodded, that was indeed what he thought. Don't be ridiculous, you are a colonel and I am a lieutenant. There is a 6-level difference between us. But for you, isn't it just a matter of 1 or 2 years? Bai Yi is speechless, co-authored by You Know Better Than Me When I Can Become a Colonel. Bai Yi counted on his fingers, then there are still big problems between us. For example, you are already 32 years old, and I am only 18 years old this year. I have just grown up, but I am actually still a child. Quote. Quote. Smoker and Dashiki beside him had black lines on their faces. If possible, they really wanted to kill Bai Yi. So infuriating. After the teasing was over, Bai Yi stopped stimulating the two of them and agreed to Smoker's request. This thing is promised without losing a piece of meat. If Bai Yi is unhappy at Marine in the future, he will be treated unfairly. Directly leading a large group of Marines to rebel and counterattack Marineland, the scene must be beautiful. Ding! Congratulations to the host for gaining the following of the original character, Smoker, and the reward is 1500 points of world source power. Listening to the system prompt that suddenly sounded in his mind, Bai Yi's eyes were about to burst into flames when he looked at Smoker. 1500 points. I have never made such a windfall since I obtained the system. Although it has only been a short month since Bai Yi activated the system. But this is an unimaginable huge amount of money for Bai Yi now. If Smoker were a beauty, Bai Yi would have wanted to hug him and kiss him a few times. Under Bai Yi's gaze, Smoker felt an inexplicable chill in his lower body in the soil. He wouldn't do anything to me while I couldn't move, would he? Out of self-preservation, Smoker said awkwardly, can you pull me out first? I can't move. Bai Yi looked at Smoker as if he were an idiot. Aren't you a smoker with the smoke fruit ability? Didn't you turn into smoke yourself and come out? Oh yes, I almost forgot, I thought I still couldn't use the fruit ability. Quote. Watching Smoker turn into smoke and come out with a happy look on his face. Bai Yi put his hand on his forehead. He felt a headache now. He suddenly felt that the 1,500 points of world source power were actually the system's fee for being a wet nurse because the child Smoker had a cerebellum problem. Thinking about it, Bai Yi turned his attention to Dashki beside him. 2. Take care of, Smoker, the system gave me 1,500 points of world source power. Although Dashi's role in the original work is not much, it should be quite important because she looks like Zoro's childhood friend. Then by taking care of Dashki, the system should also give me a lot of world power, right? In fact, I don't care even if Bai Yi is missing. Who doesn't want to take care of a beautiful sister? Taking care of my sister is everyone's responsibility. Love does not depend on the resources in the world. Bai Yi's consciousness is so high. Being stared at by Bai Yi's hot eyes, Dashki froze. For a moment, she imagined all kinds of embarrassing plots in her mind, and her face turned red. The atmosphere was somewhat ambiguous for a while. Smoker noticed the appearance of the two of them and felt like a big 500-watt light bulb, which was very annoying. After an unknown amount of time, Smoker couldn't help but said, how about I leave first and you guys wait and see. Under Bai Yi's gaze, Dashki's face turned red to her ears, and her chin was so low that it could no longer be lowered. There is no way, her own strength does not allow her to be so low anymore. Dashki was shy and didn't say a word, while Bai Yi was wondering why the system didn't prompt Dashki to follow. To be fair, Dashki is Smoker's adjutant, and Smoker has followed him, so why doesn't Dashki count? Do you need me to do anything else? Bai Yi looked at Dashki with even deeper eyes. There is something about this system. Seeing that the two ignored him, Smoker was afraid of disturbing the harmonious atmosphere between Bai Yi and Dashki. When he was at a loss what to do, Smoker suddenly thought of what Bai Yi had said before. Yes, I am a user with the ability of the smoke fruit. I can use the fruit's abilities. Smoker silently used elementalization, and his whole body completely turned into smoke, and quietly left the playground with the breeze. When Bai Yi came back to his senses, he looked around and saw that Smoker had already disappeared without a trace. Hey, where's the Smoker? Ah! Suddenly hearing Bai Yi's voice, Dashki's face was so red that it started to bleed. She screamed and ran outside in a hurry. Due to too much panic, Dashki accidentally dropped her glasses. As a severely short-sighted person, the things in front of her eyes were blurry, but she was not shy to look back and pick up her glasses, so she could only rely on her memory and ran to the door. Hey, Dashki, your glasses fell off. Bai Yi picked up the glasses and shouted, "Stop running. Stop." Hearing Bai Yi's words, Dashki ran faster, as if there was a hungry wolf chasing her behind her, running forward regardless. Bai Yi kindly reminded, "There is a wall in front of you. It's a pity that I reminded you a little late." Bang! Dashki hit her head on the wall and fainted. Looking at the 3 pits printed on the wall, Bai Yi shook his head and sighed, "Tisk, tisk, the poor wall has suffered an unreasonable disaster. I really don't know why this little girl runs so fast." In Rogue Town, a week passed quickly. Early this morning, Smoker had informed Bai Yi that a Marine headquarters ship would arrive at noon to pick them up. Through Smoker, Bai Yi learned that elite training camps are usually held every 3 years, and the number of people in each session is about 500. Marine headquarters itself occupies about 300 places, and the other 200 places are allocated by Shihai Marine. On average, there are 50 spots per Marine. The total number of soldiers selected from Donghai Marine to participate in the elite training camp is less than 40. It doesn't even reach the average, which shows that Donghai Marine's strength is indeed generally poor. But there is nothing we can do about it. The East China Sea pirates are also weak, so the Marine soldiers have not grown relatively well. Now, coupled with Byakuya's troubles in the East China Sea, before Luffy goes to sea, the East China Sea Marines will probably have a lot of time to spare. At noon, Smoker took all the people participating in the elite training camp to the port to wait. Bai Yi said softly, "Smoker, you have to train hard while I'm away, and don't let go of your abilities and fruit development. If your strength is still so bad after I graduate, then you should stay in Rogue Town to retire." Quote. Smoker kept nodding like a chicken eating rice, and kept promising, "Don't worry, I will definitely strengthen my exercise." And little Dusky, you too. Hearing Bai Yi's name, Dusky blushed and said shyly, I will do it, Lord Bai Yi. I can rest assured that. While the three of them were talking, they saw a ship sailing on the sea. The sails were printed with a seagull holding a scale in its mouth, which symbolized the maintenance of world peace and order and was particularly conspicuous. But what is more eye-catching is that at the bow of the ship is a funny-looking pug holding a bone. This surprised Bai Yi. Didn't they send someone from Marine headquarters to pick them up? How did it come to be Garp? Shouldn't this old guy be chasing the red-haired pirates? When the ship docked and Garp got off the ship, Smoker was surprised and said, Lieutenant General Garp, you will be the one to pick me up this time. It turns out to be Smoker. Smoker graduated from the elite training camp, and was the first to graduate in the same period. He is also somewhat famous in Marine headquarters, and Garp naturally knows him. Why are you still serving as a branch colonel in Rogue Town? Garp asked puzzledly, the pirates in the East China Sea are so weak. It's a complete waste of time for you to stay here. There was a hint of hatred in Garp's words. After all, Smoker is a user with smoke fruit ability. Even if it cannot compare with the fruits of the three generals, it is still a stronger existence among devil fruits. Instead of going to the New World to shine, stay in the East China Sea and become a little colonel. No, after you go back this time, I will ask Sangguo to transfer you to the New World. Faced with Garp's words, Smoker could only smile bitterly and nod. Garp's few words completely changed Smoker's future path. No one will question the authenticity of Garp's words. As a Marine hero, Garp has a greater say in Marine than the general, but he is usually too lazy to take care of things. Are these Marine soldiers selected from the East China Sea? Garp watched them one by one. Almost all the soldiers who were watched by Garp felt honored and adjusted to the best mental state. This is a living legend. Whether it's chasing One Piece Roger, or joining forces with the Warring States period to imprison the Golden Lion into Impel Down City. Whichever one you pick out is enough to shock the entire sea. Such a legendary figure actually came to pick them up in person, how could they not be excited? Under Garp's gaze, Bai Yi was unmoved, but felt a little guilty in her heart. This can't help but feel guilty. A few days ago, I was planning to kill my grandson. Now that I have met the real owner, I naturally have to keep a low profile so as not to attract Garp's attention. Garp praised, very good, worthy of being the elite of Donghai Marine. I hope that after you arrive at Marine headquarters, you can train hard and contribute to protecting the people. 37 Marine soldiers shouted, for justice. Bai Yi spoke as well, subconsciously wanting to shout, for freedom, but fortunately he reacted quickly and changed his words in time, otherwise he would have become a part of the drama. Okay, Smoker, let's go first. That old guy from the Warring States period treated me as free labor and arranged a lot of things for me. I'm really too busy. Ahem, ahem. Bogart on the side almost coughed out his lungs just to remind Garp that there were other soldiers here. What are you talking about? It's good that Lousy didn't scold him in front of the soldiers. Shouldn't he call him an old man? Bogart could only smile helplessly. You are always casual and happy as you please. The soldiers around were shocked when they heard Garp's words. You called Sengoku Fleet Admiral an old guy. Isn't this considered a curse? So what would it be like to really scold? Smoker and Dusky stood on the shore, watching Garp's battleship gradually move away. The two looked at each other and breathed a sigh of relief. Finally sent that guy away. Recalling the torture these days, both Smoker and Dusky regretted seeing Bai Yi. Smoker gritted his teeth and said, this guy also said that I have masochistic tendencies. I think he has sadistic tendencies. Colonel Smoker, do we really have to go find Mr. Bai Yi after he graduates? Smoker hesitated for a long time and said painfully, it's better to go, otherwise when he comes to us, it will be really over. And Bai Yi also missed Smoker and Dusky on the ship. With this departure, there are 2 less people who can refresh the world's source power, which is really heartbreaking. While still in Rogue Town, Bai Yi successfully captured Dusky and received a reward of 1,400 world source power points, which was a little less than Smoker, but it was enough. Bai Yi also figured out how to achieve the conditions for following. To put it simply, it is to brainwash first and let others agree with your point of view and think you are right. Secondly, by relying on your own personality charm, you can make others feel that they can only achieve their ideals by following you. Only when these 2 points are achieved can the requirement of following be fulfilled. And through these few days, Bai Yi also discovered another way to obtain world source power. As the follower's strength increases, he also receives a small amount of world source power as a reward. So these days, he practices Smoker and Dasky a lot. Although the amount given is not much, only 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, but no matter how small the mosquito is, it is still meat. This made Smoker and Dasky want to take a detour when they saw Bai Yi. Bai Yi opened the current properties panel. It's very strong. I'm very satisfied. Host, Bai Yi. Template, One Punch Man, Saitama. Fusion degree, 17%. World source power, 3. Special skill, Imperial engine. Along the way, Bai Yi finally saw Garp's ferocity. He always keeps 2 boxes of cannonballs by his side, and when he sees a pirate ship while sailing, he will be struck by a fist and a meteorite. Manually thrown bombs are more powerful than bombs fired from the main guns of warships. Based on the level of pirates in the first half of the Grand Line, almost none could withstand a shot in front of Garp. Seeing the pirate group destroyed along the way, Bai Yi felt extremely distressed. This was the source of the world's power. I wish I could pick up the cannonballs next to Garp and throw a few more myself. It's a pity that Bai Yi doesn't dare to reveal his full strength now. Although Garp pretends to be careless on the surface, he actually knows his calculations better than anyone else. Otherwise, how could he still thrive in Marine when his son was the leader of the Revolutionary Army? If it arouses Garp's suspicion and connects Bai Yi with the strong man who dueled with the red-haired Momentum a few days ago, it will be troublesome for Bai Yi to explain. When he entered Marine's headquarters, Marineland, Byakuya truly understood Garp's prestige in Marine. Marine headquarters is such a tight place that even the ship of the Vice Admiral of the headquarters will be stopped for inspection. But none of the soldiers said they wanted to check Garp's ship, and the green light allowed it to pass without any obstruction. All Marines who see Garp, even if they are Lieutenant General of the headquarters, must perform a military salute and respectfully call Lieutenant General Garp. Garp, on the other hand, greeted everyone with a smile and seemed amiable. Finally arrived at the destination, behind the Marine headquarters, the elite training camp. Finally we've arrived. This is where you need to stay for 3 years. Garp led Shiro Yoruichi to a place similar to the Marine branch base. At the playground at the door, hundreds of soldiers were already waiting, and all the young elite soldiers of Marine from all over the world were gathered here. Garp stood at the door and shouted, "Zephyr, I sent your students over to you." A man with purple hair and a build similar to Garp walked out of the crowd. "Why is it you who picked him up?" "Don't mention it, it's all a bunch of nonsense that guy from the Warring States period arranged for me. I still have things to deal with." Zephyr and Garp were Marines in the same issue, and they had a very good relationship, and they exchanged a few words. Zephyr glanced briefly and asked, "Are these your soldiers from the East China Sea? Are these the ones who passed the selection?" Forehead. Garp looked embarrassed. He was originally from Donghai. Donghai was his hometown, and he had some affinity with the soldiers in Donghai. Now that Zephyr said this, he felt a little shameless. However, Garp rolled his eyes and suddenly thought of something, and quietly said to Zephyr, "Although we don't have many people in the East China Sea, there is a good seedling inside, called Bai Yi. I heard that Bai Yoruichi personally defeated more than a dozen pirate groups in the East China Sea. He deserves to be cultivated." Garp still heard some rumors during his time in the East China Sea. Just through these days of observation, Garp didn't find anything unusual about Bai Yi. "I thought it might be a rumor, so I didn't pay much attention to it." In his opinion, as for the pirates in the East China Sea, he could stab a whole boat of people to death with one finger. What's so strong about defeating the pirates in the East China Sea? It was only when Zephyr said this that I remembered that there was a person named Bai Yi. But if he knew that when Byakuya defeated those pirate groups, although it was not so exaggerated as to use only one finger, it was just a few punches. I probably won't have such thoughts anymore. After listening to Garp's words and looking at Garp's unconfident expression, Zephyr knew that this white knight was probably what Garp said on purpose. "Why did you defeat more than a dozen pirate groups alone? If you really have this ability, why would you come to the Marine Elite Training Camp?" Playing house. It is estimated that this so-called pirate group is a pirate group where a few strong people go to sea together. It's hard to say whether the whole group's bounty amount is 1 million Baileys. For a pirate group like this, any Marine headquarters soldier selected from the scene can do it. What's there to brag about in this white night? But Zephyr also knew that Garp said this to save face. As a good brother, he did not expose Garp, but smiled and nodded. After sending Garp away, the smile on Zephyr's face faded. All the soldiers will line up according to the sea area they came from. Shihai plus Marine headquarters, there are 5 teams in total. With this look, Bai Yi knew the difference between the East China Sea and the other seas. Needless to say, there is no need to say more about the Marine headquarters. There are more than 300 people, and it looks dark from the top down. Even South Blue, the second worst team, had more than 50 people. There are only a pitiful 37 people on the East China Sea side, and the team is much shorter than other teams. The soldiers on the East China Sea side all know Bai Yi's strength, so they naturally let Bai Yi stand at the head of the team. Zephyr ordered the instructor beside him, "Since everyone is here, let's take them for testing first." Then he thought about it and said, "Let the soldiers in Donghai conduct the final test to let them know how big the gap is between themselves and other soldiers." Looking at the test results of Donghai soldiers in the past years, instructor can imagine that after seeing the results of other soldiers, Donghai soldiers could not hide themselves in shame. It is estimated that during the test, it will not be able to display its normal strength. Instructor hesitated for a while and couldn't bear to say, "Isn't this too cruel?" Zephyr said, "It's just to let them recognize themselves in advance, so as not to think that the pirates on the Grand Line are as weak as the pirates in the East China Sea. If we are not cruel to them, do you expect the pirates to be merciful to them after graduation? It's just a shame now, but it will be a loss of life in the future." Since his wife and children were killed by pirates, General Zephyr's idea of not killing has completely changed. Nearly 600 people followed the instructor to the training hall. The entire space was extremely spacious, with a height of more than 10 meters and could accommodate all the soldiers. There are 5 testing machines lined up on one side of the hall, which are similar to boxing strength testing machines. The target is made of special metal and is connected to an LCD display. It is said that this was developed by scientist Vegapunk. Each of you punch the target with all your strength in turn, and the strength of your punch will be displayed on the display, starting with the soldiers from Marine headquarters. Several people on the Donghai side began to chat quietly, asking each other about their test scores. "Bai Yi, what was your original test score?" "Test? What test? Why haven't I heard of a test? Didn't you pass the test? Then how did you get selected?" "I killed a pirate with a reward of 15 million, and then I was selected." Titus, 330 kilograms, next. Harris, 364 kilograms, next. Quote. Suddenly there was an exclamation from the crowd. "Quick, 532 kilograms. Not bad, 40 kilograms more than before." Instructor looked at the sturdy soldier in front of him and smiled and nodded. Oh, 532 kilograms, this is too strong. My 2 punches combined are not as high as his punch. As expected of a soldier selected by Marine headquarters, he is so strong. Soldiers from other sea areas sighed. Because there are 5 boxing strength testing machines, the testing speed is very fast. After a while, the soldiers from the Marine headquarters were tested. Next, it was the turn of the North Blue soldiers, the strongest in the world, to be tested. Although North Blue's soldiers are not as strong as Marine headquarters soldiers, they are generally pretty good. There are even a few outstanding soldiers who weigh more than 300 kilograms, while others are basically around 270 to 280 kilograms. The overall strength of West Blue and South Blue is not much different, and their values are basically above 240 kilograms. Next, only the soldiers from Donghai were left. At this time, Bai Yi was thinking about how strong he should be for testing. Should he follow the counterattack style of loser, or should he follow the style of supreme genius? After much deliberation, Bai Yi decided that it would be better to follow the counterattack trend. Think about it, how inspiring it is for a weak Donghai soldier to gradually grow from weak to strong in the Marine elite training camp. This kind of growth curve is softer and easier for others to accept. By then, there may be many Marine soldiers who were moved by his experience and willing to follow him. As for the contempt from others when she pretended to be weak, Bai Yi didn't care at all. Don't listen to these words too much in the 3 years since he didn't activate the system. This is called pretending to be a pig, eating the tiger, and making a fortune in silence. The other Donghai soldiers saw that Bai Yi did not take action, but the instructor had already begun to urge. So he quickly stepped forward to test it. Under the slightly joking gazes of other soldiers, the Donghai soldiers stepped forward to perform the test as if it were an execution ground. Daniel took a few deep breaths and managed to calm down his nervousness. Punch with all your strength at the target in front of you. 168 kilograms, next one. Instructor sighed inconspicuously. Compared with soldiers in the East China Sea, the gap was indeed too big. At 168 kilograms, I am not as tall as a female soldier like me. No, can someone with such strength come to the Marine training camp? Are Donghai's selection standards too low? Understand, we come here because there are only so many places, and they come here because they only have so many people. When Daniel heard the words of the people around him, his face was filled with shame. His strength was not limited to this. At the first selection, I weighed 200 kilograms. It's just that on such an occasion, he was too nervous and performed abnormally. 172 kilograms, next one. 200 kilograms, next one. As the test results came out one by one, the other soldiers' disdain became louder and louder. The soldiers who had finished the test stood there with their heads lowered, looking at Bai Yi from time to time. The soldiers who went up to test it also looked at Bai Yi for a few times before going up to test it. Bai Yi was shocked when he saw their reactions. What do you all see me doing? You don't want me to go up there and shock the whole audience, right? The reason why Bai Yi waited until the end to take action was to observe everyone's average strength first. It's not a good thing to show one's own strength too low. It is more reliable to take a value that is in the middle. Bai Yi, Donghai can only rely on you. Show your true strength and earn back your face. We believe in you. With your strength, you will definitely be able to blind them. Faced with their trust, Bai Yi felt like crying without tears. What are you doing? I don't want to act cool, I just want to act like a loser. Just as the people in the day and night were fighting, the system prompt suddenly rang. Congratulations to host for stimulating random tasks, winning first place in the camp entry test. Complete the task to get 200 points of world source power. I went and the system spoke. I'm just pretending to be cool. In front of the world's source of power, all the useless counterattacks and pretending to be pigs to eat tigers are all forgotten. Just do it and it's done. Bai Yi looked at the expectant eyes of everyone and said firmly, don't worry, we are duty-bound to safeguard the glory of the East China Sea. The soldiers watching nearby also saw the Donghai soldiers frequently looking at Bai Yi, and couldn't help but guess. What do you think is going on over there in the East China Sea? They always watch what the person in front is doing. Is it because he looks handsome? The female soldier said infatuatedly, you are indeed so handsome. A strong man next to him said jealously, what's the use of being handsome? He's handsome but can't be eaten. Judging from his physique, it would be difficult to lift 150 kilograms. Soon it was Bai Yi's turn to take the stage. When Bai Yi came on the field, it was obvious that the momentum of the Donghai soldiers had completely changed. No longer as low as before. Everyone seemed to be expecting something to happen. Even the instructor was a little confused by the contrast between the Donghai soldiers before and after. Someone reasonably speculated, could it be that this person is the strongest among the soldiers in the East China Sea, so they are looking forward to it so much? The companion retorted, what's the use of being the strongest in the East China Sea? Who among us is not the strongest in the East China Sea? Quick on the side said impatiently, shut your mouths. You'll know after reading this. Seeing that Kuike had spoken, the others had no choice but to mute their voices and watch Bai Yi's performance quietly. Bai Yi, who appeared on the stage at this time, was like a big star that attracted everyone's attention. Nearly 600 people looked at him intently. Bai Yi came to the test machine, feeling the hot gaze from behind, and murmured, since you want to pretend to be B, then brother, I will pretend to be big for you, and scare you to death. Bai Yi made a fist with his right hand, pointed it at the target, slowly straightened it, and suddenly stopped when he was still 2 centimeters away from the target. The thumb rests on the middle finger, and the other 3 fingers are straight. Everyone was confused by Bai Yi's actions. What does this guy want to do? A brother with a clear mind asked, "Are you trying to hit a target with your head spinning?" This big brother really guessed it right. The middle finger suddenly popped out, and in the blink of an eye, there was even a deafening sound of air explosion. Bang! The target that had been tested by many people and was still, unscathed, suddenly dented like plasticine. The next moment, everyone looked as if they had seen a ghost. Under the terrifying force, the entire test machine flew backwards for dozens of meters, and then hit the wall, leaving a deep hole. Oops, it seems like I used a little too much force. Pretend to be like the wind, always with me. Everyone looked at Bai Yi with monster eyes, and knocked the punch test machine away so far with one finger. Is this Nima still a person? If this hits someone. Gee, that scene must be very bloody. Thinking about being a student for 3 years with such a person, a group of people couldn't help but feel despair. Then for the past 3 years, I had to be suppressed by him without even a chance to stand up. Especially Quick, who had performed the most outstandingly before. He thought he was the best among this class of students. And in order to compete for first place in the same period, he still has some trump cards that he has not yet used. Now it seems there is no need to use it at all. Go home, it's all over. Quick has begun to think about whether to ask Zephyr to drop out of school and wait until Bai Yi graduates before being selected for the elite training camp. There is no way, as the number 1 in the Marine elite training camp in the same period, he will be equipped with a separate warship when he graduates. Generally, this is a treatment only for lieutenant generals. Only a very small number of major generals can enjoy this special treatment. Most of the first graduates in the same period will be awarded the rank of Major General. Therefore, students in each period will work hard to be number 1 in the same period. People like Smoker didn't realize it, and those who took the initiative to apply to return to their hometown to become a colonel were special cases. Instructor looked at Bai Yi leaving gracefully and felt dumbfounded. How should I record my grades? Is it possible to remember? A boxing strength testing machine. In the following tests, Bai Yoruichi refreshed everyone's understanding again and again. Whether it's weightlifting, speed testing, or other physical fitness tests, Bai Yi's results are among the best in the entire camp. And it can beat the second place by a huge margin. Finally, the instructor finished recording the results and his whole body was in a sluggish state. He even began to have self-doubt. With my strength, am I really worthy of being Bai Yi's instructor? How about letting him be my instructor? By the end of the test, everyone was already numb. Even when instructor announced its disbandment, everyone still looked stupid and turned a deaf ear. Even the soldiers in Donghai are no longer as excited as before. They only know that Bai Yi is very strong and can defeat Colonel Smoker. But they didn't expect Bai Yi to be so strong. Moreover, Bai Yi's B is only 18 years old, while some of them are already nearly 30. Doesn't this allow people to live? Instructor went to Zephyr's office holding the report card of the test just now. This is Zephyr's personal habit. After the camp entry test is completed, a suitable training plan will be tailored according to each soldier's situation. After all, everyone has a different starting point, and the joint training method is not suitable for everyone. Zephyr raised his eyes and saw that something was wrong with instructor's expression. After receiving the transcript, he casually asked, why is his expression so ugly? Are the results of this entrance test very bad? Zephyr opened the report card and looked at it from front to back. These are not bad, this Quick is pretty good, we can focus on training him. After reading all the results outside the East China Sea, Zephyr showed a smile on his face. The strength of this class of students is pretty good. After they graduate, they will be able to provide Marine with a group of manpower. As for Donghai's report card, Zephyr only looked at the first 2 and lost interest in reading any more. Zephyr shook his head and sighed. Oh, the Marines in Donghai have been getting worse and worse over the years. If this continues, the number of places in Donghai should really be reduced. General Instructor, I suggest you look back, maybe you will get unexpected surprises. Quote? Zephyr looked confused. A surprise from the East China Sea. Instructor was somewhat looking forward to Zephyr's expression when he saw Bai Yi's results. Although Zephyr didn't understand what instructor meant, he still looked down. With results like this, can you still surprise me? Until Zephyr turned to Bai Yi's report card and stood up from his chair. All test scores ranked first. Instructor Cook, can you explain to me what a boxing strength testing machine is? Cook told the story exactly as it happened. 1. Flicked away with one finger. The boxing strength testing machine is a relatively rare instrument in Marine, so its hardness is undeniable. Even Major General Marine can use the test machine to test his own strength. But Bai Yi actually flicked it away with just one finger. Zephyr suddenly thought of what Garp said to him before he left. Bai Yi once single-handedly defeated more than a dozen pirate groups in the East China Sea. Before, he thought Garp was bragging and wanted to save himself some face. Or maybe these dozen pirate groups are all low-class pirates. But who would have thought that Bai Yi's strength would be so strong? Zephyr murmured, Garp, you won't deceive me. This kid is really here to play house. Regarding Bai Yi's achievements in killing more than a dozen pirate groups, Bai Yi did not ask Smoker to report it. Because of his achievements in solving these pirates, Bai Yi could be transformed from a lieutenant to a lieutenant colonel at most, or a colonel at most. Not even the brigadier's sides could be reached. And if Bai Yi ranks first in the same period, he can become a major at worst. So Bai Yi really didn't pay much attention to those achievements and just let Smoker handle it by himself. Cook said, General Instructor Zephyr, I should lead them to train tomorrow. But does this guy Bai Yi really need to be trained? I feel that if he is thrown into the new world, he can survive. Zephyr understood the meaning of Cook's words. Isn't it funny if you ask a weak person to train a strong person? Okay, I will personally lead Bai Yi's training from now on, and you can just take care of the other students. Cook couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief after hearing this. He was really afraid that he would get into trouble with Bai Yi when he was training Bai Yi. What would he do if Bai Yi gave him a finger? He doesn't think his bones are harder than a boxing strength testing machine. The next day, Bai Yi has already learned that he does not need to train with other students. This didn't surprise him at all. Geniuses would receive special treatment there. It doesn't matter whether this genius is cheating or not. A boxing strength testing machine costs 50 million belly, and the cost of repairing the walls of the training room is 20 million berry, a total of 70 million berry. I hope you can repay this fee as soon as possible. Quote. This was the first time Bai Yi saw Zephyr, and the first words Zephyr said. Just such a sentence made Bai Yi want to drop out of school. This is a training camp for Hammer. Is this a black shop? You didn't mention this to me when you asked me to test it. Bai Yi tried to argue. Zephyr instructor, isn't this unreasonable? Zephyr looked at the slightly naive Bai Yi in front of him and smiled slightly. In the training camp, what I said is the truth. Okay, you are awesome, I will accept the money. When Lousy finishes learning what he needs to learn, there will always be times when you, the old guy, will cry. In the entire Marine, in terms of teaching level, Zephyr can be ranked in the top 2. If you don't count Cyborg Sora, former Marine Fleet Admiral and current Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Services, Zephyr is number 1. No one will question this. After all, Zephyr taught the 3 current Marine generals. At least 1/3 of Marines' middle and high-level cadres have received Zephyr's teachings. It's just that in the plot version, Zephyr is a tragic character. He dedicated his life to Marine, but was betrayed by Marine, and even died at the hands of his former apprentice Kizaru. It makes people sigh. The reason why Bai Yi is willing to come to Marine Elite Training Camp has something to do with Zephyr's teaching level. He wants to learn the 6 Marine styles and 2-color Haki from Zephyr. Taking a closer look at the powerful people in the pirate world, whether they are devil fruit users or not, their strength is related to their own strength. There is no mention of people with very strong fruit development and extremely weak physical fitness. This is especially true for the pirates' 4 emperors, each of whom has the same physical fitness as a monster. Every time Bai Yi improves his fusion degree, he strengthens his physical fitness, which is equivalent to laying a solid foundation. But he still needs a way to perfectly utilize this foundation. Teacher Saitama doesn't need it because he is too strong. No enemy can stop him from giving a serious punch. But Bai Yi hasn't reached this level yet, he has only integrated 17% of the template. Based on his contacts with various powerful people these days, Bai Yi has a rough understanding of his own strength. He should be at the level of Marine's top lieutenant general, barely able to compete with a general. Such strength is naturally invincible in the East China Sea, but there are too many strong men in the New World. Based on his personality, he might end up in front of the 4 emperors one day. So in order to be able to live happily in the New World, Bai Yi strives to squeeze dry Zephyr. Zephyr instructor, what should I learn today? Let's start with the most basic 6 marine poses. Today I'll teach you Moonwalk, one of the 6 poses. Zephyr looked at Bai Yi, with indescribable joy in his eyes. Strong people like Zephyr who don't rely on fruit abilities like Bai Yi the most, who are extremely physically strong but don't have fruit abilities. This is simply the most perfect student in his mind. The Marine 6th style is not a bad thing in Marine. Basically only general level Marines can perform it, and not everyone can fully learn the 6 moves. Zephyr explained, Moonwalk uses strong foot power to step on the air to generate strong air holding force. It can walk in the air like stepping on stairs, but it cannot stay in the air for too long. But this is for ordinary people. As long as you have enough physical strength, you can always be in the sky. Of course, this is just talk. After all, no one's physical strength is unlimited. With that said, Zephyr performed Moonwalk himself and asked Bai Yi to learn it carefully. I saw Zephyr stretching out his foot a little in the air, as if he were stepping on a real object, and his whole body flew directly into the air. And it can move freely in the air and is very flexible. What you need to pay attention to is the force exerted by your steps. The force does not need to be too big, nor is it too small. The force should be just enough to make you fly into the air. Zephyr demonstrated Moonwalk a few more times, and then asked Bai Yi to try it. Bai Yi followed Zephyr's demonstration and stepped down with his feet in the air. His whole body was like a rocket, soaring into the sky. There were clear footprints on the ground. After a while, Bai Yi fell from the sky. Seeing Bai Yi's embarrassed look, Zephyr had a smile on his lips, but did not speak. Moonwalk is not something that can only be learned by the stronger you are. It is a special way of exerting force that requires skills. Bai Yi calmed down, remembered the lesson learned last time, stretched out his feet in the air and stepped down again. Because there is too little effort, nothing happens. Zephyr looked at Bai Yi's frustrated look and said with a smile, don't be discouraged. Moonwalk is not that easy to learn. It is quite troublesome to learn at the beginning. When Garp and I first learned Moonwalk, it took us nearly a month to get started. So there's nothing to rush about. Just as Bai Yi was pondering Moonwalk's skills, the system's notification sound suddenly sounded in his mind. Ding! Congratulations to host for activating the skill, Moonwalk. Do you want to learn it? Is there anyone who doesn't want to learn from this? Learn decisively. Special skills. Imperial Engine, Moonwalk LV1+. Level 1 is the most basic level, which is what Zephyr calls the beginning state. Bai Yi saw a plus sign behind the skill and tried it with doubts. Then I heard the system prompt, do you choose to use world source power to improve skill proficiency? Can world source force still play like this? Bai Yi originally thought that it would take at least half a year to complete the 6 movements. This is when he is relatively confident in his talent. But who would have thought that with the system, the biggest cheating device, you can start learning the 6 styles instantly, and even your proficiency is taken into consideration. It's really considerate. Bai Yi tried to spend a little of the world's energy. Moonwalk skill proficiency increased by 10%, current level LV1 to 10%. Some skills about Moonwalk suddenly appeared in my mind. Although there were not many, they also played a big role for Bai Yi, who was just getting started. Bai Yi couldn't help but be overjoyed. Moonwalk was still very useful to him. After all, he is not a Logia devil fruit user, so he cannot fly in the sky for a long time. The emergence of Moonwalk has greatly enhanced both pursuit and flexibility. Look at Big Mom, who is the pirate emperor. Because she can't fly, she was kicked down the waterfall many times after losing Prometheus. Even if there were no injuries, the 4 emperors' face would have been completely lost. Bai Yi tried to upgrade Moonwalk to the 2nd level. To improve the proficiency, he would need 2 points of world source power. After trying it one by one, Bai Yi learned Moonwalk to the 4th level, spending a total of 150 points of world source power. Bai Yi felt that although his attainments in Moonwalk were not as good as Zephyr's, he was considered top-notch among Marine Lieutenant Generals. Zephyr instructor, can you see if there is anything wrong with the Moonwalk I used now? Zephyr chuckled and said, okay, feel free to use it, I will point out your shortcomings. Bai Yi stepped lightly on the void with his toes, rising into the sky like a sharp arrow from a string. Zephyr looked up at the white night disappearing into the sky, and couldn't help but laugh. Young people are just, Zephyr noticed something was wrong, and when he looked back, he saw Bai Yi standing in the air, as if walking on flat ground, looking at him with a smile on his face. Zephyr almost popped his eyes out. How is this possible? Zephyr asked tentatively, have you mastered Moonwalk? In fact, there is no need to ask. Anyone with eyes can see that Bai Yi has more than mastered Moonwalk. But Zephyr still couldn't believe the scene before him. 5 minutes ago, he was comforting Bai Yi not to be discouraged, and using himself and Garp as examples to encourage Bai Yi. It was said that it took the two of them a month to get started. And Bai Yoruichi turned his head, fully mastered Moonwalk, and used it freely. Isn't this a slap in the face? Luckily no one else was around to hear it. Otherwise, if this matter spreads out, where will Zephyr's old face be? Ahem, although you performed Moonwalk very well this time, there are still some minor flaws that need to be corrected. In order to maintain his face, Zephyr can only find faults and pick out some minor faults that have nothing to do with elegance. Bai Yi did not expose Zephyr. After all, he had the traditional virtue of respecting the elderly and caring for the young, and what Zephyr said was indeed correct. When Zephyr saw that Bai Yi was not proud, he actually acted like he was listening attentively. It seemed that he had memorized everything he said. Zephyr loves Bai Yi even more. He has not eaten devil fruit, has a good physical foundation, good talent, no pride, and respects his teacher. As a teacher, who wouldn't like such students? Zephyr suddenly had the idea of recruiting a disciple. Although he has taught 3 generals in his life, it has been proved that his teaching ability is not weaker than his strength. But these 3 generals are all users of the Logia fruit, and their fruit abilities are also top-notch. Therefore, there will be a small number of people who question that Akainu, Kizaru, and Aokiji can still become generals even without his teachings. And the main reason is because he is a strong physical artist, but he has taught 3 natural fruit ability users. Let him always feel regret. And the Bai Yi in front of him is the best candidate to make up for his regrets. Zephyr did not hide the praise in his words. I really didn't expect your talent to be so strong. I want to be your teacher and teach you everything I have learned in my life, what do you think? Zephyr wants to accept me as his disciple. Bai Yi was a little stunned, he really didn't expect this. Although Zephyr is also teaching Bai Yi now, the relationship between the two is just that of instructor and student. When Bai Yi graduates 3 years later, it will be difficult to maintain the relationship between the two. But becoming Zephyr's apprentice is different. Although the teacher-student relationship is not as good as the blood relationship, it is still similar. In this way, Bai Yi's body is marked with Zephyr's mark. If Bai Yi does anything extraordinary, Zephyr can easily be implicated. However, Bai Yi thought about it and decided to become a disciple of Zephyr. When watching anime before, Bai Yi had the idea that Zephyr was not worth it. Such a character should not die in that way. Bai Yi made up his mind, since you are willing to teach me wholeheartedly, then I will try my best to prevent that thing from happening. Then, I want to become your disciple. Can you give me 70 million belly for free? Zephyr smiled and said, this is impossible, the rules are the rules. Tisk, what a stingy teacher. Ha ha ha, you're not a big boy. The two looked at each other and smiled, feeling warm in each other's hearts. Congratulations to host for becoming Black Arm, Zephyr's apprentice, and will be rewarded with 1000 points of world source power. Bai Yi didn't expect that a double happiness would come to his door, and the smile on his face became even bigger. Within the next month, under Zephyr's full guidance, Byakuya mastered all 6 marine styles. And reached a very proficient level. Of course, this is also thanks to the cheating device of the system, which allows Bai Yi to get started quickly. Bai Yi opened the current panel. Host, Bai Yi. Template, One Punch Man, Saitama. Fusion degree, 17%. World source power, 602. Fusion degree 17%, 18%. requires world source power, 800. Special skills. Imperial Engine, Moonwalk LV5 full, Paper Painting LV4+, Iron Block LV4+. Finger Gun LV4+, Lanjiao LV3+, Shave LV5 full. Except for the fact that Bai Yi used the world source power during Moonwalk and Xiao training. The proficiency of the other 4 movements was basically gained through Bai Yi's own practice. A general is willing to be a sparring partner, and can always point out your shortcomings and teach you many years of combat experience. This is simply more powerful than carrying an old man with you. Only then did Bai Yi experience the great benefits of having Zephyr as his teacher. Although there has been no progress in integration and physical fitness has not improved much. But Bai Yi feels that with his current methods and combat experience, he is enough to defeat the first 2 of himself. Zephyr was quite satisfied with Bai Yi's improvement in the past month, and even directly said, "I am a mere white knight, but I have the qualifications of a general." Many thanks to Garp for sending Bai Yi to the elite training camp. Garp was depressed for several days, so he asked Sengoku for leave again. He said that he wanted to go home and educate his grandson Luffy well, and strive to make Luffy a marine general. As for the method of education, it is naturally extremely cruel. It is estimated that Luffy will have to carry a big bag on his head during this period. From a deserted island not far from Marine headquarters, deafening roars could be heard from time to time. 2 figures kept intersecting in midair, and from time to time, several dozen meter-long slash waves shot out. Under the interference of the aftermath of the battle between the 2, the originally dense and vigorous towering trees fell in pieces like harvested wheat. The beasts living in the forest fled wildly, as if there was an extremely terrifying existence deep in the jungle. A young voice came from deep in the jungle. "Teacher Zephyr, your fists are not as powerful as they were a month ago. That's because your kid's skin has thickened and is more resistant to beatings." Bai Yi and Zephyr stood facing each other hundreds of meters apart. The next moment, they appeared in front of each other at the same time and punched with all their strength. Boom! An invisible air wave spread from between the 2 of them. The trees that had fallen to the ground were swept up by the air wave, and the ground of the entire island dropped by 1 meter. The beasts living on the island would cry. If they didn't know how to build ships, they would all want to go to sea on their own. Since these 2 monsters arrived a month ago, the island has been cleaned every 2 or 3 days, and the island has also sunk a lot. After a month, the originally dense woods were shaved off, and the island area was reduced by 1/10. If this continues, this island will be submerged by the sea sooner or later. And this is just the teaching method chosen by Zephyr in order to allow Bai Yi to better practice domineering. Nothing can make people improve faster than actual combat. Have you realized how to practice armed color Haki? I have a feeling, but I haven't gotten started yet. Bai Yi recalled the scene of the battle just now and the feeling of fighting Zephyr. Bai Yi has only just begun to practice Haki, and can only continue to understand it on his own. Seeing Bai Yi's deep thought, Zephyr couldn't help but smile and said, "You don't have to put so much pressure on yourself. You can master the Marine 6th style within a month, which is far beyond my expectations. But as someone who has experienced it, I suggest that you first practice the iron blocks and paper drawings in the 6 movements to the limit." The iron block is a weakened version of armed Haki. When used, it can achieve a defense similar to that covered by armed Haki. The disadvantage is that it cannot move. The paper painting is equivalent to a weakened version of the Haki of insight. It can sense the coming attack, and the body will make corresponding changes according to the attack. The disadvantage is that the range is smaller. If you can practice these 2 styles, you will probably be able to understand the Haki of armed color and the Haki of knowledge. Otherwise, having an elder in the family is like having a treasure. If you don't have personal experience with this type of cultivation, I'm afraid no one would know that these 2 moves can help people master domineering. Although Bai Yi was a little anxious about Haki, he was not impatient. He has only been in the Marine training camp for about a month now, which is still a long time. And even Luffy spent 2 years practicing Haki. So Bai Yi was thinking a lot. Once understood, there is a system, and as long as there is sufficient world source power, everything will not be a problem. Bai Yi smiled and said, "Teacher, don't worry, I know that sometimes you can't rush things like cultivation. Zephyr nodded and said, "That's good. By the way, today seems to be the first month-end assessment for the freshmen in the training camp. Do you want to take a look?" Zephyr also saw that Bai Yi had practiced day and night in the past month, so he specifically proposed the assessment so that Bai Yi could have a day off. Bai Yi asked doubtfully, "The assessment at the end of the month? Why didn't I receive the notice? Why are you informing me?" Zephyr said angrily, "I'm too lazy to talk to you. Do you think it's a sense of accomplishment to bully those newcomers with your strength? Hehe, I'm a newcomer too. You're nothing but a newbie, you. Zephyr thought that Bai Yi was indeed a newcomer, and he was also relatively young among the soldiers who entered the camp. Others at this age are very strong. They are basically ability users, and the devil fruit they eat is also quite powerful, so they are invincible among their peers. The peak period of strong physical skills is usually in middle age, because the body is not that strong when they are young. Even Zephyr and Garp were only slightly stronger than their peers when they were 18 years old. Then we entered a period of rapid growth. But this kid Bai Yi is so strong at the age of 18, which makes Zephyr really want to dissect and study this guy. How can he be so strong at the age of 18? Okay, I can't go if I don't. I can't if I don't go. Bai Yi was just about to say that he wouldn't go, but he also knew that his strength used to be all about massacre, which was meaningless. But halfway through his words, Bai Yi heard a system notification sound in his mind. Congratulations to the host for triggering the learning task. Getting first place in each end-of-month assessment will be rewarded with 200 points of world source power. Again, Bai Yi couldn't help complaining as he listened to the reminder sound in his mind. Why don't you just change the name to the Shueba system? Let me get first place every time, develop morally, intellectually, physically, artistically, and physically, and strive to wear a red flower on my chest, resist the 5 bars on my shoulders, and become a captain among the students. But complaints are complaints. Bai Yi is still happy about the task triggered by the system. With Bai Yi's strength, aren't these 200 points of world source power just a free gift? And Bai Yi noticed that the system was talking about each assessment, which meant that Bai Yi could get 2,400 points of world source power from the assessment every year. This is a fixed income, and the working period is 3 years. Bai Yi has already thought about it. From now on, he will be in a hurry with anyone who asks him to graduate from the elite training camp early. Bai Yi walked to Zephyr and said, "Teacher, I must participate in this end-of-month assessment. Give me a reason why you must participate. See if you can convince me." Zephyr pouted. From Zephyr's point of view, Bai Yi just wanted to show off his strong strength among his peers. Just like a child would show his favorite toys to his peers. It's all boring vanity. But looking at Bai Yi's still slightly childish face, Zephyr couldn't help but mutter in his heart, "Isn't this little monster just a child in front of him?" But Bai Yi had already sorted out his words and spoke with sincerity. "Teacher, actually I am taking the assessment this time not for myself, but for you, teacher, for the students who are my contemporaries, and even more for Marine." Bai Yoruichi spoke, almost making Zephyr unsteady on the spot. "Good guy, if you want to show off your strength, go ahead and show off, and I have no intention of stopping you. After all, you are still a child, and it is normal to want to show off. But now you are telling me so much, for me, for the students, for Marine. It seems like if I stopped you from taking the assessment, I would be Marine's sinner." Zephyr said angrily, "Come and listen." Bai Yi said with a serious expression, "First of all, for the teacher took me with him and taught me when I first entered the training camp. I will always keep this kindness in my heart. But they don't know how much my strength has changed in the past month under the teacher's guidance, so I must show my strength in front of them to prove your excellent education level, teacher." Quote. The corner of Zephyr's mouth twitched. "You barely qualify for this one, so let's go to the next one. Secondly, for them, I do this just to let them understand how big the gap is between themselves and me at the same time, and to set a goal for them, so as to inspire them to work hard." Zephyr's mouth twitched continuously. "Keep talking." Third point, for Marine, you must know that those who can enter the elite training camp are elite soldiers in Marine. Every death or injury is a huge loss to Marine. And after they see my strength, I can give them a clear understanding of the strong, and thus they will be in awe of the strong. In this way, after they graduate, they will not die in the hands of strong people because of impulse. Quote. Zephyr found that he seemed to have only really gotten to know Bai Yi now, and couldn't help but say, Bai Yi, have you ever considered joining the world government as an official? I think being a marine is too unqualified for you. Compared with your eloquence, your cultivation talent seems dim. The assessment at the end of every month in the elite training camp is very important for recruits. Because the results of each end-of-month assessment will be recorded, it is related to the grades given to them when they graduate. The higher the score, the higher the position you can get upon graduation. Although there is a pervert like Bai Yi this year, there is no hope for the first place in the same period. But for the second place in the same period, everyone still wants to compete. The assessment is based on a battle system. After all, after they graduate, they will have to face extremely vicious pirates. And they enter the training camp to improve their strength faster. Before the competition started, a recruit asked Instructor, will Bai Yi come to take the month-end assessment? He is not the only one who wants to know this question. All the students participating in the assessment are very concerned about this issue. If Bai Yi participates, then if they are unfortunate enough to be drawn against Bai Yi in the first round, their results will be lost. Instructor was stunned for a moment, but based on his understanding of Instructor Zephyr, he probably would not allow Bai Yi to participate, so he smiled at the recruits and said, Don't worry, Bai Yi will not come to participate in this assessment, and it will not affect your results. Hearing Instructor's words, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. It would be better if the pervert didn't come. Quick took the lead and said coldly, If Bai Yi is not here, I will decide on the first place. In 1 month, Quick's body shape has become much stronger than before. You can imagine how hard he worked this month. The soldiers following Quick cheered, Come on, Boss Quick. The leader on the other side said calmly, Big Black Bear, are you saying this too soon? This first place must belong to Boss Ferguson. Quick was not to be outdone and said, I'm going to crush your big light bulb today. Let you know who is the strongest in the freshman camp. The atmosphere on both sides became tense, as if there was going to be a big battle in the next moment. Within this month, the soldiers in the training camp gradually divided into 3 factions. The first one is naturally the Marine headquarters soldiers forming their own group, led by the strongest Quick. The second one was jointly organized by North Blue, South Blue, and West Blue, and the strongest Ferguson was promoted from the middle as the leader. As for this last faction, it was naturally composed of Donghai, and Bai Yi undoubtedly became the leader. Although even Bai Yi himself didn't know such a thing existed. Even though Donghai's faction has the smallest number of people and the weakest overall strength, because they have Bai Yi's back, neither Quick nor Ferguson will take the initiative to provoke them. Naturally, the people on the East China Sea side knew not to cause trouble for Bai Yi, so everyone lived in peace with each other for a month. Listening to the recruits shouting at each other, the instructor present not only did not stop them, but showed a knowing smile on his face. Instructors will not care about healthy competition among recruits like this. After all, they are all bloody young people, and it is a good thing to be a little bloody. Seeing that the time was almost up, Cook was ready to announce that the assessment had officially begun. I announce that the first month-end assessment is now. Wait a minute, let me preside over this month-end assessment. Zephyr and Bai Yi suddenly appeared in front of everyone. Zephyr was finally persuaded by Bai Yi and agreed to Bai Yi's participation in the end-of-month assessment test. Of course, he didn't believe Bai Yi's nonsense. I just saw that Bai Yi was even able to make up these outrageous lies with some truth in them in order to participate in the end-of-month assessment. Feeling soft for a moment, he let Bai Yi participate. Of course, this was only agreed upon when Bai Yi promised that he would be careful during the test and not make any heavy moves. Everyone looked at the 2 people who suddenly appeared in stunned silence, Instructor Zephyr and Bai Yi. Cook asked bravely, Chief Instructor, this is... Zephyr said calmly, Isn't this the end-of-month assessment? So I brought Bai Yi over to take part in the assessment. Gulu. Hearing Zephyr's calm words, the more than 600 people present swallowed their saliva. Nima Bai Yi still wants to take the assessment. Quick and Ferguson, who had just been at war with each other to compete for first place, now felt only endless desolation in their hearts. Nearly 600 pairs of big, aggrieved eyes looked at Instructor Cook. Didn't you just say that Bai Yi wouldn't come to take the assessment? Why did it come suddenly now? We have been excited for so long in vain. Cook couldn't stand being stared at by so many eyes and asked with a sad face. Instructor Zephyr, with Bai Yi's strength, there is no need to participate in the assessment. Before Zephyr could speak, Bai Yi raised his neck and asked, Cook instructor, am I not a recruit? Cook swore that he really wanted to say that you were a bad recruit. Apart from looking like a recruit, what else do you have like a recruit? But under Bai Yi's eyes, Cook could only give in and said, you are a recruit. Then can I take the end of month assessment? Before he finished speaking, Bai Yi made a fool-like gesture in front of Cook. Although each shot bounced in the air without causing any impact. But in Cook's eyes, every blow was a slap on his head. Think about that miserable boxing strength testing machine again, this is a real threat to Kai Guago. Cook was about to cry. His big watery eyes looked at Zephyr, as if to say, Chief Instructor, someone threatens your longtime subordinate in front of you, but you don't care. At this time, Zephyr looked up at the sky and said with emotion, oh, the weather is really good today, the sun is shining brightly, it is a good day for the assessment. But when everyone looked up, they could only see dark clouds covering the sun, as if a disaster was about to come. Oh, yes, don't think about it, isn't this disaster just the white night in front of you? Seeing that even Zephyr didn't care, Cook could only give in and said, yes. Bai Yi looked happy, it's good if you can. Everyone looked sad, is this still a human life? Even the chief instructor is on Bai Yi's side, so the last 3 years of the elite training camp can be changed to Bai. Just call it White Knight Training Camp, which is more in line with the reality. Quote. Bai Yi appeared on the test platform and said arrogantly, I heard you shouting very hard just now. You want to beat this one to death or crush that one to death? Are you here to compete for second place? Quick, Ferguson, Cook. Zephyr cursed in his heart, he knew this kid was here to show off, yet he was so arrogant without any cover-up. When he goes to sea in the future, he will be beaten to death sooner or later. But when Zephyr thought about it, with Bai Yi's current strength, there were probably very few people who could kill him. In other words, as long as Bai Yi doesn't seek death, he can keep pretending. Zephyr began to feel lucky that he had taken a back seat and did not meet people like Bai Yi when he was young. Seeing that everyone was silent, Bai Yi did not change his arrogant attitude at all. Seeing that you are too weak, I can give you a chance. You can all come together. Listening to Bai Yi's arrogant words, the soldiers who had lowered their heads in silence all raised their heads and looked at Bai Yi. One person wants to beat all the students. Nothing like this has ever happened at Marine Elite Training Camp. Even Akainu, Kizaru, and Aokiji did not do such exaggerated things in their training camp. Even Zephyr couldn't believe it. He just thought Bai Yi was just here to pretend to be small, but who knew that Bai Yi actually wanted to pretend to be big? Isn't this kid too crazy? However, with Zephyr's understanding of Bai Yi's strength, he still believes that Bai Yi has the ability to deal with these recruits. Everything is under control. As the leaders of the two largest factions among the soldiers, Quick and Ferguson looked at each other for a long time, seeming to consider the possibilities together. If this were a man and a woman looking at each other like this, the light in each other's eyes would melt each other. It would be either love at first sight or two blind people. Seeing that everyone was still silent, Bai Yi spoke again, you are too useless, aren't you? You don't even dare to do this, so that's good. In addition to the 10 instructors present, you can take action together. What else is there about us? Cook's eyes widened and he began to gear up. This kid dared to threaten me just now. I didn't expect that he would have a chance to take revenge so soon. Seeing that some instructors were not very willing to take action, Cook quickly advised. Even Bai Yi, a newcomer who has been in the camp for a month, dares to challenge our instructor team. If we don't teach him a lesson, wouldn't it ruin the reputation of our instructor team? How will we teach recruits in the future? Do you want others to say that our instructor team is afraid of newcomers who have just been in the camp for a month? Not to mention, Cook's words moved the instructors who were originally reluctant to take action, and they all nodded and expressed their willingness to take action. Cook's words certainly deserve a lot of credit for achieving such a result. But Bai Yi's arrogant look is also quite inviting. Cook didn't deliberately lower his volume when he spoke, so Bai Yi could hear it clearly. Cook saw Bai Yi showing a bright smile to him, which made people shudder, and once again made a gesture that seemed to make him lose his mind. This guy still dares to threaten me. Cook was shocked. Even after persuading the entire instructor team was not safe enough, Cook wanted to drag Zephyr onto the pirate ship to fight against Bai Yi. He even said that Bai Yi's move was to provoke the Marine elite training camp. Zephyr couldn't justify it if he didn't take action. Zephyr has no doubt that if Cook is allowed to continue talking, Cook will even be able to say that he will call back the 3 major generals who graduated from the training camp. Ahem, I am not involved in this matter. I am only responsible for presiding over this assessment. Zephyr hesitated again and again, but still refused. In fact, Zephyr is very excited, and it is exciting just to think about it with so many people beating Bai Yi together. Looking at Bai Yi's arrogant look again, Zephyr was furious. Laozi was not so arrogant even when he became a general. You, a recruit, are so arrogant. How can you do it without fighting? But Zephyr is afraid. Bai Yi is the most agreeable disciple he has met in his more than 30 years of teaching. He has never seen anyone better and more outstanding than Bai Yi. What if he goes up and is beaten away by Bai Yi? If he really ran away, he wouldn't even have a place to cry. So he only watched from the sidelines and would never take action. Seeing that he could not persuade Zephyr, Cook said no more, thinking that it would be enough for them to take action together. Instructor group, 10 instructors, 3 headquarters lieutenant generals, and 7 headquarters major generals. This lineup is enough to deal with a big pirate with a bounty of over 1 billion. In addition to the marine elites drawn from various places, their strength is basically at the captain level, a total of 590 people. The strong one can even be compared to the colonel of the headquarters, and the weak one is also the lieutenant junior grade of the headquarters. 600 people in total. Shiro Yoruichi wants to challenge such an exaggerated lineup. Just when Bai Yi announced that he would challenge all recruit and instructor groups, the news swept through the entire Marine headquarters like a storm. They were not familiar with Bai Yi, but they had heard of the name. It is said that instructor Zephyr personally accepted the disciples, and when he accepted the disciples, he said, "My disciple Bai Yi has the qualifications to be a general." If it is really that easy to become a general, then the general is not worthy of Marine's top combat power. And Byakuya is not yet a devil fruit user, so everyone thinks this sentence is just what instructor Zephyr said. But he didn't expect that in just 1 month, Bai Yi would actually challenge all the recruit and instructor groups. Along the way, people wearing school-level uniforms could be seen hurriedly running towards the training camp. Lieutenant General Bastiu, what's going on? There is something good happening in the training camp. Go watch it quickly. If you go late, it will be too late. Colonel Morley, you also went to the training camp to watch the show. Of course, if you go quickly, you can still grab a good seat. In the Marine Fleet Admiral office, Sengoku finished handling the matter and was about to take out a donut from the drawer to reward himself. I accidentally saw from the window a lieutenant general and a major general on the street, using Moonwalk and moving quickly in the same direction. Sengoku was confused. If he hadn't heard the sound of fighting, he would have thought that there were pirates trying to attack the Marine headquarters. So he quickly asked the soldiers at the door. After learning what Bai Yi had done, he was very interested in it and hurried to the training camp. Pier, Garp got off the boat with a depressed look and happened to meet Aokiji, who had just completed his mission. Garp is Aokiji's old leader. Before becoming a general, Aokiji had always followed Garp and was basically Garp's little fanboy. So even though Aokiji is a general and Garp is a lieutenant general, Aokiji still behaves very respectfully when facing Garp. Teacher Garp, are you unhappy with your vacation this time? Oh, let's not talk about these nonsense. Garp waved his hands impatiently, the trouble in his heart was palpable. Originally he was envious of Zephyr for having such a good apprentice, so he took a vacation and returned to Windmill Village, preparing to teach his grandson Luffy how to become an excellent marine. But after this month, Luffy refused to become a marine, and insisted on going to sea to become a pirate, which made him almost hammer Luffy's brains out. Even so, Luffy still didn't change his determination, which made Garp feel tired. In addition, the vacation time has come, so I can only rush back frustrated. Thinking of this, Garp couldn't help but curse the red-haired boy who seduced the ignorant boy, Luffy. If the red-haired boy hadn't seduced his grandson every day, his grandson would have become an excellent marine. How could it give him such a headache? What Garp didn't know was that just as his front foot left the East China Sea, on an island somewhere in the East China Sea, the red-haired pirates, one of the 4 Emperor's pirate groups, are resting here. Ah, what's going on? Can I catch a cold with my physical condition? The red-haired man looked at his body and said narcissistically, "You're still very strong. It's probably just your nose that's itchy." Boo. The phone bug in the red-haired man's arm suddenly rang. Beckman, is that old man Garp gone? He must have left. I watched his ship return to the Grand Line. Okay, then let's go to Windmill Village to chat with Luffy. After hanging up the phone, the red-haired man said proudly, "Over the years, I've been chatting with Luffy all the time, and I even lost my left arm in front of Luffy for saving him. Do you really think that this left arm was given to you for free? You still want to persuade Luffy to become a Marine? What a naive old man." Garp and Red Hair were fighting like guerrilla warfare. When the enemy retreats, we advance, and when the enemy advances, we retreat. They fought very methodically. Garp and Aokiji were about to return to Marine headquarters to report their work, but found that most of the people were running towards the training camp. After stopping to ask, I found out that Bai Yi actually wanted to challenge all the recruit and instructor groups. After hearing the news, Garp was not only shocked, but his lungs hurt even more. Because he personally gave Bai Yi to Zephyr, but who would have thought that Bai Yi, who had nothing but handsomeness at that time, would have such a high talent? So the two of them rushed to the training camp. No matter whether Bai Yi lost or won this challenge, Bai Yi's name was undoubtedly resounding throughout the Marine headquarters. In the training camp, when Zephyr was about to announce the start of the assessment, he saw the students who had graduated from the training camp, wearing general-level military uniforms, sitting where they had sat before. "Zephyr, this apprentice of yours is really making a lot of noise." Warring states, "You're actually here too. I just finished taking care of the things at hand, so I came over to take a look." Warring States looked at the people sitting on the sidelines and said helplessly, "Well, when I held a high-level meeting of the headquarters a few days ago, not all people came here." Sengoku found a high seat and just sat down when Garp and Aokiji appeared beside him. "Garp, Aokiji, isn't it true that one of you is on vacation and the other is on a mission?" Aokiji also respected Zephyr. "Mr. Zephyr, Mr. Garp and I happened to meet at the port. We heard the news here, so we came over." Garp was extremely upset because of Luffy's incident and said carelessly, "Zephyr, can that boy Bai Yi do it? There are so many of us coming to see him. If he loses, wouldn't it be in vain for us to come?" Hearing Garp's unhappy tone, Zephyr didn't feel too comfortable and said with a smile, "Garp, you have to have confidence in the people you brought from the East China Sea. You old guy, you still have the nerve to say, if I hadn't brought Bai Yi from the East China Sea to you, would you have found such a good apprentice? That's because you are blind and didn't discover Bai Yi's talent. If you are going to discover it, can you give me Bai Yi?" Two old men in their 60s and 70s started arguing in front of everyone. Although Aokiji is a Marine general, he is obviously not qualified to regulate the two people in front of him. Warring States Fleet Admiral, don't you want to persuade me? Warring States looked helpless. Both of them were old men who were about to die. Wouldn't it be embarrassing to argue in front of so many young people? As they watched the two of them bickering and getting closer, they could spray enough saliva to wash each other's face. Warring States could only persuade and say, okay, let's start the assessment quickly. You will almost lose the face of the older generation." After hearing what Warring States said, the two stopped thinking about arguing anymore. At this time, the recruits and instructors in the training camp were stunned. What is going on? Isn't it the month-end assessment of the Marine Elite training camp? It happens once a month. Is it such an exaggeration? Warring States period, Marine Fleet Admiral. Garp, Marine Hero. Zephyr, former Marine General, current Marine Chief Instructor. Aokiji, current Marine General. Look at the officers sitting quietly not far away. There are 7 Marine Headquarters Lieutenant Generals, 22 Marine Headquarters Major Generals, Brigadiers and Headquarters Colonels, almost 100. With this lineup, it is enough to fight 2-4 Emperor's groups. Now it's just to see their month-end assessment. Or are you just looking at Yoruichi's month-end assessment? Being watched by so many big shots is both pressure and motivation. Both instructors and recruits have undoubtedly strengthened their belief at this moment. This battle cannot be lost. Once they lose, they will become a stepping stone for Bai Yi to become famous in the sea. When the students of this period are mentioned again in the future, others will only know Bai Yi, and no one else will be remembered. Just like the students who were at the same time as the 3 marine generals, they were destined to only be a foil. And the initiator of all this, Bai Yi, also did not expect that it would lead to such a situation. Look at the marine executives sitting around. Looking at the serious faces of both the recruit and the instructor, it can be imagined that this assessment is probably going to be tough. Bai Yi sighed and thought to himself, I am not a person who likes to pretend, being low-key is my motto. I can only blame the system for insisting on letting me show off, and even using the power of the world to seduce me. Facing the temptation of the world's power, I have no choice. Alas, this system has broken my low profile. If the system could speak, it would probably be able to give Bai Yi a bath with spit. I assigned a task for you to take first place. Who the hell asked you to show off and challenge for 600? Now you are still blaming me, you are really not a thing. Bai Yi took a deep breath and said, since I am the one who beats you all, then this arena seems too small and is in the way. How about we use the entire training ground as the arena? Bai Yi's proposal was equivalent to giving up a huge advantage. Originally, he would lose as long as he was kicked out of the ring. But if the entire training ground is to be used as the arena, then there is no such thing. Although Zephyr didn't understand why Bai Yi did this, he still chose to believe in his apprentice. Okay, let's use the training ground as the arena. Bai Yi said calmly, then there is no need for this arena. As soon as he finished speaking, the arena, which was 10 meters long and 3 meters high, seemed to be suppressed by a terrifying force. The entire arena suddenly fell and was pressed 3 meters into the ground until the surface of the arena was flush with the ground. The most horrifying thing is that the surface of the arena that suffered huge force is still as smooth as new without any damage. Bai Yi stood in the center of the ring, looked around, and said loudly, come on, I want to fight 10,600. Chapter 31. Bai Yi pressed the ring into the ground intact, which meant that the battle that attracted the attention of many high-level officials had officially begun. Cook reminded, Bai Yi, don't you choose a weapon that is handy. We are all equipped with weapons. If you don't have one, you will be at a huge disadvantage fighting us. Bai Yi declined Cook's kindness, no, even if I take it, I won't be able to use it smoothly. I might as well just use my fists and kicks. The sword has no eyes, you have to be careful. After Cook finished speaking, he took the lead to attack Bai Yi. The long knife in his hand made a clear and long groan, and an extremely sharp half-moon-shaped slash came quickly towards Bai Yi. Bai Yi did not dodge or dodge, and hit a several-meter-long slash with one punch. The slash instantly shattered like porcelain. Bai Yi looked at a faint white mark appearing on his fist. It was still not enough. He needed more, and more. Suddenly, 2 strong winds came from behind, rushing straight towards Bai Yi's sides. The next moment, Bai Yi's body was as thin as a piece of paper, and he escaped the joint attacks of the 2 instructors. He grabbed the arms of the 2 instructors with his backhand and threw them out with terrifying force. Bang, bang, bang. The bodies of the 2 instructors rushed through the crowd like bowling balls, knocking down a group of students. There were many cries of pain. What are you still hesitating about? Do you really want me, who has just been in the camp for a month, to defeat 600 of you? Looking at the instructors and students who were still hesitating around them, Bai Yi said with a hint of ridicule, if the person standing here is a pirate, are you also hesitating like this? If you are not willing to take action, then I will take action. Bai Yi rushed directly into the crowd, using his hands and feet. Judging from the strength of these students, no one could block his move. But in order not to hurt them, Bai Yi needed to carefully control his strength. This was also the promise he made to Zephyr. Think of it as exercising to control strength. He punches away the student in front of him, dodges the attack from behind, and then kicks over an instructor. He is like a tiger entering a flock of sheep, and there is almost no enemy at all. Seeing Bai Yi killing everyone below, the marine executives present were all shocked by Bai Yi's performance. After learning that Bai Yi was going to challenge 600, they already thought of Bai Yi very strongly. After all, if he wasn't strong, no lunatic would dare to challenge 600 people. But they didn't expect that the battle would be one-sided. Not to mention picking up 600 at once, just look at Bai Yi's attitude. If he picks up another 600, he can knock them all over for you. Except for a few lieutenant generals, they felt that something was wrong as they watched this battle, but they couldn't explain why they felt this way. But the 4 people in the highest stand saw something from Bai Yi's performance. Garp frowned and asked, Zephyr, are you sure this kid has learned the 6th form of Marine? Byakuya, who rushed into the crowd, did not use finger guns or arashi kicks when attacking, and did not use razor or moonwalk to move. I only used paper drawings to dodge the attack. If I couldn't dodge it, I just used iron blocks to resist. This kind of fighting method looks very exciting and hits the flesh, but in fact it is very stupid. Zephyr naturally knew that Bai Yi had learned all the 6 marine styles, and he knew very well that Bai Yi, this boy, wanted to be able to roam the sea unscrupulously in the future. I was practicing Shao and Moonwalk hard every day, and I was still muttering about things like, if you can't fight, run away, and that only the living are qualified to deal damage. After this month, Zephyr felt that Bai Yi's mastery of Shao and Moonwalk was as good as his own. But Bai Yi now behaves as if he only knows 2 techniques, iron block and paper drawing. Looking at the resolute look on Shiro Yoruichi's face, Zephyr suddenly had a bold idea in his mind. Could it be that this kid is planning to? I didn't expect this kid to have such determination, no wonder he did this. Zephyr laughed and said, Garp, just keep watching with your eyes wide open. My apprentice will definitely win, and sooner or later he will become a marine general. He believed that Bai Yi could succeed. Garp snorted and didn't reply. Sengoku and Aokiji also saw something was wrong, but they didn't think that Byakuya really only knew these 2 moves this month. So they concluded that Bai Yi must have some conspiracy in this battle. In less than a moment, Bai Yi had already defeated more than 300 people and 4 instructors. Because Bai Yi didn't act cruelly, these people only lost their combat effectiveness temporarily and could continue to fight after taking a rest. This is also the disadvantage of Bai Yi setting the competition venue at the training ground. In addition to making the opponent admit defeat, the only way is to make the opponent lose the ability to fight. At this time, a safe zone had been cleared around Bai Yi. The instructors constantly arranged for the students to pull out the injured students lying on the ground to avoid a stampede incident later during the battle. Bai Yi, on the other hand, took this opportunity to take a few deep breaths to calm down the rising and falling chest. Opening the system panel, Bai Yi mainly looked at the 2 skills of paper painting and iron block. Paper painting LV5 10% plus, iron block LV5 6% plus. Just from the progress of these 2 skills, one can imagine how many beatings Bai Yi received and how many attacks he avoided during this period. Just as Zephyr thought, Bai Yi was preparing to rely on this one-on-one challenge to speed up his training in paper drawing and iron blocks. Although Bai Yi can achieve his goal by relying on the world source power, the world source power is really too little. When you save. It's better to let everyone in the training camp work for him and help him hone his skills. It's quick. It should be enough to knock down the remaining people. Bai Yi thought silently in his heart. At this time, the people who fell to the ground around them were also cleared out, and the battle was about to start again. Maybe the previous battle gave them enough warning, so they were all ready to follow the orders of an instructor. Instead of fighting on their own as before, they were in a state of disunity. As the 2 strongest freshmen, Quick and Ferguson have managed to survive until now, which surprised Bai Yi. Although he didn't deliberately target anyone during the battle, he basically hit whoever was closest. But Bai Yi clearly remembers that Quick was punched twice by him, and Ferguson was also punched once. Like other students, anyone who is not unconscious on the spot after being punched by Shiro Yoruichi is considered to be physically strong, and basically needs to rest on the sidelines for a period of time. And these 2 people were actually able to participate in the battle after being attacked by Bai Yi. It seems that these 2 guys still have 2 skills. Cook, who was the first to attack Bai Yi, also supported himself and became the commander of the subsequent battle. The battle began, and under Cook's command, the battle became extremely organized. Taking action is no longer as random as before. When taking action, you have to consider whether it will accidentally injure your companions. But now, there is no need to think so much. Everyone takes action in sequence according to Cook's arrangement. If they miss a hit, they will retreat directly to leave space for the next wave of attackers. Even if he is unfortunately hit by Bai Yi when taking action, someone will drag him away as soon as possible. This caused a lot of trouble for Bai Yi. The attacks were like a tide, with no chance to breathe. However, Bai Yi became even more excited about such trouble. He originally wanted to rely on this exercise to break through his limits, and the more trouble he had, the better. As for whether he will lose, this is completely outside Bai Yi's consideration. He is now completely suppressing his own strength to play, and most of his strength has not been used. Moreover, the other 4 postures were not used. If he really used his full strength, there would probably only be a few instructors left standing. No matter how bad it is, there is still a system. So losing is completely impossible. As time passed and seeing the battle becoming more and more severe, Cook called Ferguson and Quick to his side. Ferguson, you will need to cooperate with Quick later. I and other instructors will create opportunities for you. You must seize them. I'm afraid we can't win this battle. This kid is like a monster, but the least we can do is get him injured, otherwise 600 of us won't be able to hang out in Marine anymore. Quick and Ferguson nodded in agreement. They were completely convinced by Bai Yi. They have never seen anyone as capable and thick-skinned as Bai Yi. After fighting for so long and receiving so many punches, Bai Yi still looked lively and energetic. This kind of fighting makes people feel a little desperate. Bai Yi looked at the progress bar of the skill from time to time, and was already happy when he saw the proficiency soaring. Paper painting LV5 95% plus, iron block LV5 95% plus. Proficiency in both skills goes hand in hand. Of course, this also has something to do with Bai Yi's own control. As he becomes more proficient in paper painting, he won't hide anymore and will receive more punches. As your proficiency with the iron block increases, you will receive fewer punches and try your best to avoid them. There are not many opportunities to gain proficiency like this. It is not life-threatening, and it can also increase your reputation. Earn blood. From time to time, the person Bai Yi hit first regained his fighting power and joined the battle again, forming a cycle. For Bai Yi, this is simply a perpetual motion machine for improving proficiency. At this moment, Cook and the people he had discussed with looked at each other and felt that now was the best time to take action. Although they can let those students who wake up take action again, Bai Yi's energy will always be exhausted if he doesn't stop. But if they really do this, they might as well just admit defeat. Cook rushed to the front with the only 2 instructors, and Ferguson followed them, seemingly wanting to take action together. Bai Yi also noticed this scene and said excitedly, "Okay, I didn't expect you, Cook instructor, to actually come to my door. I've been wanting to punch you for a long time. Don't worry, this punch won't kill you. At most, it will make you lie in bed for half a month." Although Bai Yi is not a grudge-bearing person, he is not very magnanimous either. I saw Cook jumping up and down in order to gang up on him before. Not only did he persuade all the instructors, but even Zephyr wanted to pull him over. How could Bai Yi not treat Cook instructor who was so caring to him? Just when several people came to Bai Yi and were about to take action, they heard Cook yell, "Close your eyes." Ferguson beside him was like a human-shaped sun, emitting extremely strong light, illuminating the entire training ground like a sea of light. The officers sitting on the sidelines felt their eyes hurt from the dazzling light. They covered their eyes with their hands and narrowed their eyes to a narrow slit before they could see clearly. Even a strong man like Garp felt a little uncomfortable with such a dazzling light, and his eyes gradually became moist due to the self-protection mechanism. When Garp turned around and wanted to ask Zephyr what was going on, this made Garp look stupid. Aokiji used his fruit power to create 2 thin pieces of ice in front of his eyes, directly reflecting the light away. Warring State's eyes were wrapped in a layer of golden light, completely unobstructed. Seeing Garp's somewhat uncomfortable look, Warring State smiled and said, "When I used my fruit power to turn into a golden Buddha, the light was no worse than his." Garp was speechless. "Okay, you guys with fruit abilities are great, then I'll go find Zephyr." Zephyr's lack of fruit ability must be as uncomfortable as mine. When Garp looked at Zephyr, he saw Zephyr took out a pair of sunglasses from his arms and put them on with a calm expression. Garp was shocked and said angrily, "You are shameless. Zephyr laughed and said, "What's wrong with me? I've known for a long time that Fergus is a parameciolite fruit user, so I wore a pair of sunglasses to watch the game." "Oh, why is the marine hero crying?" The veins on Garp's forehead popped out in anger, but no matter how angry he was, he couldn't stop the tears from falling from the corners of his eyes. As long as he opened his eyes, he would definitely shed tears. "Give me a pair of sunglasses too. I just wore these sunglasses." Garp said angrily, "I don't care. If you don't give it to me, I will take the one you brought. At worst, each of us will have one eye." Seeing that Garp really wanted to take action, Zephyr had no choice but to take out another pair of sunglasses from his arms and throw them to Garp. Zephyr said angrily, "Is this a marine hero? A marine bandit is more or less the same." Garp took the sunglasses and put them on happily. His eyes immediately felt much more comfortable and he didn't feel like crying. I didn't care about Zephyr's words at all. What's wrong with bandits? I still want to be a bandit. Seeing Bai Yi's battle scene, Garp even thought about taking Bai Yi away and becoming his apprentice. If he hadn't been worried about pissing off the old guy Zephyr, Garp would have dared to do this. The unexpected bright light caught Bai Yi off guard. Others only suffered from the radiating light, but he was at the center of the light. In addition to the light, he also felt the heat, as if his whole person was being put into a furnace. When the light reaches a certain intensity, it will also emit terrifying heat. Bai Yi's eyes were stinging and uncomfortable, and he couldn't open them at all. He didn't know what was going on around him. Subconsciously, I wanted to use shave to leave the place, but I was stunned when I was about to use it. Isn't this the fighting environment he always wanted? Under the strong light, you can't open your eyes and can only rely on intuition to avoid it. If you can't avoid it, you have to rely on your body to resist. It fit his idea perfectly. So Bai Yi chose not to leave, but stood there, quietly comprehending everything around him, the airflow passing through his body, and the smell in the air. These could give him hints and become his eyes. Bai Yi can't see it, and Cook and others can't see it either. But after observing for so long, Cook was betting that Bai Yi would not use Moonwalk and Shave to open the position. So they only need to attack at Bai Yi's location in their memory. He was right in his bet, Bai Yi would not avoid it. The four of them took action together. While Bai Yi couldn't see, he felt that the sensitivity of other organs seemed to have increased, and he felt the subtle movement of the airflow in the air. It seems like there are two left sides, one right side, and one bottom side. Following the thoughts in his mind, Bai Yi's body began to dodge the attack. The left side of the body suddenly became thinner and dodged two-finger guns. The next moment, the right side of the body twisted to the left and dodged a punch, and the body formed a somewhat weird S shape. Cook relied on his memory to stab Bai Yi's abdomen with a sword. Bai Yi did not dodge the sword. When the sword approached, he waved his left hand and grabbed the sword directly. Bai Yi felt that there was a force under the skin that wanted to come out. He kept trying, but he never broke through the limitations of the skin. Bai Yi knew that this should be armed Haki, he could already sense it. When Cook was caught by the blade, he shouted, "Quick!" Suddenly a shocking bear roar came from behind Bai Yi, roar, and Quake turned into a huge black bear, exuding a wild aura. It is nearly 5 meters tall, with limbs as big as 3 people hugging each other. Long claws extend from the bear's claws, as sharp as a machete. Like a bear's paw the size of a roof, it shot towards Bai Yi's head like it blocked the sky and the sun. The strong wind it brought about even pressed cracks into the ground. This was the last attack arranged by Cook. After Bai Yi avoided their attack, it was absolutely impossible to avoid Quick's attack again. Even if Bai Yi wanted to use Moonwalk to escape at this time, Cook and others would tightly entangle him to prevent him from escaping. It can be said that as long as Bai Yi did not use Moonwalk to distance himself from the beginning, Quick's attack might not be able to hit. Their hope of comeback rested on Quick's attack. And Quick also knew this, so he also tried his best to suck the milk and exerted all his strength. Is this your plan? It's really not that good. Unfortunately, my plan also met expectations. A faint smile appeared on Bai Yi's lips. Paper painting LV5 full, iron block LV5 full. Congratulations to the host whose skill has reached full level and triggers the extended skill. The paper painting will be changed to the hegemonic color of seeing and hearing, and the iron block will be changed to the domineering color of the weapon. Of course, it changed. Isn't this the purpose of Baiyi's battle? Change completed. Knowledge color domineering LV1 plus armed color domineering LV1 plus. It's finally done. This battle can finally be over. Facing the palm with terrifying power, Baiyi stretched out the index finger of his right hand. The index finger was covered with armed domineering energy and suddenly turned black. This was the limit of Baiyi's ability. The seemingly weak point of the index finger is in the center of the fallen bear's paw. The bear's paw was like a falling meteorite. For a while, it could no longer fall, and was blocked by a finger. Warring States and others saw it clearly, and immediately started to slap the case, and said in a voiceless voice, "Is this armed and domineering?" Zephyr was shocked but also a little happy. He really succeeded in understanding domineering, and he is worthy of being my disciple. Impossible, how could this happen? Quick looked at the scene that happened in front of him in disbelief. He knew his strength very well. If he used it with all his strength, he could tear a small warship to pieces. But now it was actually blocked with a finger. Tell him how to believe this fact. Cook and the other two instructors naturally recognized the armed domination displayed by Baiyi. Combined with what Baiyi had done before, they all understood what was going on. Cook smiled bitterly and said, "What a boy, you actually used 600 of us to train yourself. Today's young people are really getting more and more crazy. We are getting old after all, so we can only take a back seat and teach students." Several instructors were filled with emotions for a while, as if recalling their past when they were young. Quick, on the other hand, was a bit disloyal and waved his left palm with all his strength. The strong wind brought by the huge bear paw blew the surrounding soldiers so hard that they couldn't even stand up. Baiyi smiled and said, "You're still here, now I don't have to let you go." Before, he was standing here to be attacked by them in order to develop his two-color domineering power. Now that his goal has been achieved, he naturally no longer needs to restrain himself. Baiyi suddenly disappeared in front of everyone's eyes, and appeared on top of Quick's head the next moment. Such a big thing does look quite intimidating, but it's a pity that it doesn't scare me. Baiyi knocked lightly on the back of Quick's head, and Quick, who was still roaring, fainted instantly. The unconscious Quick could not maintain his animal form, so he returned to his human form and fell from the air. Just as Baiyi was about to take action, he saw Ferguson jump up and catch Quick. It seemed that the two of them had wiped away all their past grudges in today's battle. For men, there is no easier way to strengthen a relationship than to fight side by side. Baiyi thought shamelessly, "Hey, I did a good deed unintentionally." Baiyi stood in midair, winked downwards and said, "Cook instructor, do you want to continue fighting?" How could Cook not understand what Baiyi meant? If the fight continued, this kid would no longer suppress him. Forget it, I secretly punched a few times this time, so I'll be content. But we can't dwell on this matter, otherwise the battle won't be painful at all and Baiyi will be able to hone his two-color domineering spirit with the help of them. They didn't take advantage of anything, and they even made a fool of themselves among many Marine senior executives. The more I think about it, the angrier I get. Cook said, "If we don't fight, we will admit defeat." As their commander-in-chief, Cook can naturally represent their opinions. After Baiyi heard this, he turned to look at Zephyr and shouted, "Teacher Zephyr, make an announcement quickly." Zephyr was stunned and said blankly, "What announcement? Didn't they admit defeat?" Baiyi said helplessly, "Announce that I am the first in this month's training camp assessment." There is nothing Baiyi can do. The system is stubborn and only accepts the first place in the assessment for the tasks issued. Even if they all admit defeat, Zephyr, who is in charge of the assessment, needs to announce his confirmation. Otherwise, even if Baiyi beats everyone present, the mission will not be considered completed. Of course, he couldn't beat them. Just the four on the viewing platform, anyone who came out would be a big blow to him. That's it, the people of Zephyr are all stupid. You beat them to the point of admitting defeat. Aren't you the number one? You still have to ask me to announce that you are number one, do you have to pretend so completely? Can't you just be more low-key? Warring States laughed and said, "Ha ha ha, this little guy is quite proud." Aokiji also smiled and shook his head. This junior brother seemed to care about face. Garp, on the other hand, looked thoughtful, wondering what he was thinking about. So Zephyr announced with some embarrassment, Well, the number one in this training camp assessment is Bai Yi. The high-ranking officers sitting around looked at teacher Zephyr's embarrassed look, and then listened to these words, and they all laughed. But Bai Yi didn't pay attention to this. After Zephyr made the announcement, the system's voice sounded in his mind. Congratulations to host for completing the mission and receiving a reward of 200 points of world source power. Okay, the plan was successfully completed. In the stands, Garp asked Sengoku for another leave with a serious look on his face. Warring States was anxious at that time. Didn't you, old guy, just come back from vacation? Why do you need to take vacation again? The situation on the sea now looks calm, but in fact it is rough. Moreover, Sengoku has just received news that the Beast Pirates, one of the 4 Emperor's pirate groups, has frequent contact with Heavenly Yaksha Doflamingo, one of the Shichibukai. I originally thought about asking Garp to investigate when he came back, but who would have thought that this old guy would actually take a vacation again? Garp looked at Sengoku, who was blowing his beard and staring, unmoved at all. After seeing Bai Yi's performance, he felt extremely depressed. So Garp decided to go to the East China Sea this vacation and not come back until he taught Luffy an excellent marine. Warring States looked at Garp, who looked like he was going to take a vacation, so he could only shake his head helplessly. A month at most, and you won't have a vacation this year. Garp was overjoyed when he heard Sengoku speak, and said with a smile, "Don't worry, 1 month is enough." If the redhead heard what Garp said, he would probably laugh his head off. Do you think 2 months would be enough for you to change Luffy's mind? Lousy spent more than 10 years. Sengoku thought for a while and thought about the people in the Marine headquarters who were suitable for missions. Aokiji is definitely one, but Aokiji has just returned from a mission, and coupled with his lazy temperament, I am afraid he is not suitable for this kind of investigation mission. As for the remaining Marine headquarters lieutenant generals, there are not many, and they must stay at Marine headquarters in case of emergency. As for the major general of our headquarters to deal with such a matter, I am afraid that his strength is somewhat insufficient and he will not be able to control the situation. Doflamingo is not an easy character to deal with. If it is not handled properly, there may be a fight between the two sides. Where can I find someone who is good enough, has no affairs of his own, and can handle things efficiently? While Warring States was thinking, his eyes gradually focused on Bai Yi not far away. That's right, isn't there just such a person in front of you? His strength is not weak, comparable to that of Marine Headquarters Lieutenant General. I just practice in the training camp every day, without any business. Moreover, Warring States had read Bai Yi's files and had a certain understanding of Bai Yi. He is decisive enough to deal with things and has ruthless methods, which is very suitable for dealing with pirates. Although Bai Yi is very suitable for Sengoku to be responsible for this operation, there is still a problem at hand. How to steal people from Zephyr's hands. After all, there is still a certain degree of danger in this operation. And Bai Yi is just a recruit and has only been training for a month. Warring States hesitated again and again, but still did not tell Zephyr about this idea. Bai Yi is indeed very suitable for this operation. Currently, there is no more suitable candidate than Bai Yi in Marine Headquarters. However, after considering the danger of this operation, Warring States gave up. Neither Doflamingo nor Kaido are easy to mess with, especially the latter. Let's look at Zephyr's attitude towards Bai Yi. Although he is a master and apprentice, anyone with a discerning eye can see that Zephyr treats Bai Yi as his own son. 30 years ago, after Zephyr's family was killed by pirates, Zephyr chose to quit his job that year, giving up his position as Marine General and willing to teach recruits in the rear. Warring States and Zephyr have been comrades in arms for many years, and Warring States has only unspeakable sorrow for what happened to Zephyr's family. During the period of teaching recruits, Zephyr became more and more strict, and his attitude towards pirates changed from, "don't kill," to one of preferring to kill if they make a mistake. And Bai Yi's appearance made Zephyr smile more in this month than in previous years combined. If something happened to Bai Yi while performing his mission, Warring States could not imagine what a big blow it would be to Zephyr. This can be regarded as Warring States' own selfishness. As for this matter, it's not impatient to wait for now. Let's see who can take the time to talk about it when the time comes. Half-year later, two figures flickered in the air, and Bai Yi's armed and domineering punch knocked Zephyr back a few steps. He said with some pride, "Teacher Zephyr, why do I feel that you are getting weaker and weaker?" Zephyr knew that Bai Yi wanted him to say that he was getting stronger. But he didn't say anything, and deliberately slapped his chest and coughed, "Ahem, there's nothing we can do about it. As you get older, your body and dominance are no longer at their peak, and it is normal for your strength to become weaker and weaker." Quote. Bai Yi approached Zephyr and said, "Hey, why is the teacher so old? I feel that with the teacher's strength, he is more than enough to serve as Marine General again." Zephyr rolled his eyes at Yoruichi. "According to your statement, are you stronger than the general now?" "Ha ha ha, I'm just saying, I wouldn't mind if you approached the Warring States Fleet Admiral to get me a general position." Bai Yi continued shamelessly. "You, kid, I'll give you beauty and the position of general." Zephyr said angrily, "Why didn't you say you wanted to be the Marine Fleet Admiral?" "Teacher, can you get this for me too?" Zephyr was speechless. In the past 6 months, he had figured out Bai Yi's character. This kind of shamelessness was just Bai Yi's daily routine. However, Zephyr is quite satisfied with Bai Yi's progress in the past 6 months. Ever since Bai Yi realized the two-color domination, the two of them had competed with each other more and more frequently. It used to go from 2 to 3 times a week to almost once a day now. In just half a year, the result of Bai Yi's competition with him was that he could barely compete with her. To the point where they are indistinguishable, and now they can suppress themselves. And he also witnessed Bai Yi's growth in the past 6 months. He even felt that Bai Yi's current strength was not much worse than when he was a general. With Bai Yi's current strength, staying in the training camp will not significantly improve his strength. Just as the topic of graduation came up, Zephyr asked, "Bai Yi, have you ever considered graduating early?" "Graduate early? Teacher, you are really going to give me a general position?" Bai Yi said in surprise. Zephyr's face instantly turned livid, and he hit Bai Yi hard on the head. "Are you daydreaming here? I will give you the rank of Major General at most." "Major General, I'll think about it." Listening to Bai Yi's slightly disgusted tone, Zephyr suddenly felt dumbfounded. Major General of Marine Headquarters, a rank that Marine soldiers dream of. The result was given to him by his apprentice, and he still had to consider it. If this news spreads, I'm afraid how many people would want to strangle Bai Yi to death. However, Zephyr did not force Bai Yi. "Then you go back and think about it tonight, and just give me an answer tomorrow morning." Back to my room. The room is very spacious and has very few things. There is only one bed and a set of tables and chairs. Bai Yi lay on the bed, thinking about what Zephyr told him about graduating early. In fact, Bai Yi himself knew that if he wanted to greatly improve his strength, the fastest way was to obtain world source power. The only way to gain world power in the training camp is to rely on the end-of-month assessment. The harvested world source power is really too little. Without using the world source power, you can only rely on time to grind it down. Open the current system panel. Host, Bai Yi. Template, One Punch Man, Saitama. Fusion degree, 19%. World source power, 300. Fusion degree 19% 20%, requires world source power, 1000. Special skills. Imperial Engine, Armed Color Haki LV6+, Knowledge Color Haki LV5+. If you have practiced all 6 marine styles to the full, you will not be included in the entry, so as not to miss the number of words. The highest level of domineering is level 10. In the past 6 months, he ranked first in every assessment and received a total of 1,200 points of world source power. All Bai Yi used it to improve the degree of fusion, which was also the result of Bai Yi's half-year training. In fact, Bai Yi was a little excited about graduating early. After all, life in the training camp is relatively boring. But if he chooses to graduate early, he will lose 200 points of world source power every month, which will be 6,000 points of world source power in the past 2.5 years. This made Bai Yi quite reluctant to part with it. Such a large sum of world source power could be obtained just by staying at the training camp. It was simply a waste of money. Who doesn't like free prostitution? Just talking, please give me money from the boss. After much thought, Bai Yi decided to ask the system. System, if I choose to graduate early, can I still get 200 world resources per month? If the host chooses to graduate early, the mission will be cancelled and there will be no world power reward. As expected by Bai Yi, if he graduates early, his mission will be gone. Just as Bai Yi was hesitating, the system sounded again. If the host chooses to graduate early, the early graduation reward can be opened, and 2,000 world source power points can be awarded for each year early. 2,000 points a year, then 2.5 years as 5,000 points. Although he would earn 1,000 less world source power than if he stayed in the training camp, Bai Yi could definitely use these 2.5 years to earn more world source power outside. Bai Yi said happily, I didn't expect this system to be quite user-friendly. Whether you choose to graduate early. Yes, now that you have chosen to graduate early, the next thing you have to face is what position you will be awarded upon graduation. In Bai Yi's opinion, at least he would not be lower than a major general. This is due to his confidence in himself and his confidence in Zephyr. The next day, Zephyr felt a little sad when he heard that Bai Yi was going to graduate early. After all, he has been treating Bai Yi as his own son for the past 6 months. Now that Bai Yi is leaving the training camp, he is really reluctant to leave. However, before Bai Yi left, Zephyr was still planning to personally discuss with warring states about Bai Yi's graduation. Striving for more benefits for Bai Yi was one of the few things he could do for Bai Yi. Marine Fleet Admiral Office. Warring States looked at Zephyr in front of him, adjusted his glasses, and said with emotion, I didn't expect you to be willing to let Bai Yi graduate. I thought you would at least let Bai Yi stay in the training camp for another year. Zephyr crossed his arms across his chest and said in a deep voice, with the development of the Great Pirate Era, Marine is facing more and more troubles. Staying in the training camp with Byakuya's strength is undoubtedly a waste of Marine's strength. It is better to let him contribute to Marine early. Warring States looked at Zephyr with eyes full of relief. Look, this is the consciousness of the older generation Marine. He knew Marine's difficulties and took the initiative to stand up and share Marine's worries. If every Marine had this kind of awareness, my hair wouldn't turn gray so quickly. Why don't very few old Marines have this awareness? That's right, Warring States is talking about Garp. Since half a year ago, Garp took leave and returned to the East China Sea to train his grandson to become a Marine. His plan failed again. That old guy Garp didn't know why he was crazy, and he started chasing the red-haired man around the world with Aokiji. He didn't listen to anyone's advice and said, if Laozi doesn't come back to Donghai, you, the red-haired one, won't even think about going back. When I asked Garp why, Garp wouldn't tell me. In this way, Marine lost 2 of its top combatants in disguise. If the other 3 Imperial pirate groups were not relatively peaceful, Sengoku would have died of sorrow. Now, Zephyr allows Bai Yi to graduate early, which is a great thing for the Warring States period. Although Warring States is not sure how much Bai Yi has improved in the past 6 months, judging from the perspective of half a year ago, Bai Yi's strength is at least a quasi-general. The Warring States period would also feel a lot more comfortable with the addition of such quasi-strongest combat power. Zhang Guo said, don't worry, Bai Yi will graduate early this time, and the treatment he deserves will definitely be no less. Zephyr said casually, well, I don't have any big requirements. Just give him the rank of Marine Lieutenant General, plus a warship built by the world's strongest giant tree, Atom. Then just add 10 obedient Major Generals from the Marine headquarters. Quote. Warring States' eyes widened, and his eyeballs almost burst. Isn't this a big request? If your request is bigger, can I just grant you the rank of Marine Headquarters General? Zephyr turned a blind eye to Sengoku's extremely arrogant appearance and said calmly, if you are older, the Marine Fleet Admiral rank is about the same. This is what Bai Yi taught Zephyr. According to Bai Yi's words, most people always like to make compromises. For example, if you say that the room is too dark and a window must be opened here, everyone will definitely not agree. But if you advocate removing the roof, they will mediate and agree to open the windows. Zephyr felt that it made sense, so he directly followed Bai Yi's words to the end. Warring States gritted his teeth and said, Zephyr, are you kidding me? No, these are Bai Yi's exact words. If you don't agree, he will stay in the training camp for 3 years before graduating. Anyway, he is not in a hurry and can still get along with other students for a while in the training camp. You don't know that when those students learned that Bai Yi was going to graduate early, they all cried, saying that they didn't want Bai Yi to leave. The scene was really tearful for everyone who saw it, and sad for everyone who heard it. I was in tears when I saw it. Quote, as he spoke, Zephyr pretended to touch his eyes, but unfortunately there were no tears, otherwise it would have been more pretentious. Warring States was shocked. He didn't expect Zephyr to be so shameless. Are you sure those students shed tears of reluctance and not tears of excitement? If Bai Yi is really that popular in the training camp, how could the remaining 590 students form an anti-white alliance to resist Bai Yi's monthly beatings against them? Warring States looked at Zephyr with a strange expression. This old guy had learned bad things. Zephyr was not like this before. Zephyr was such a simple old marine in the past. He would never disobey the orders of his superiors, let alone bargain with his superiors. Ever since I accepted Bai Yi as my disciple, I could only laugh. Seeing that Warring States was still hesitating, Zephyr said directly, since you don't agree, I will let Bai Yi stay for another 2.5 years. The students in the training camp must have been very excited to hear the news. Quote, how could he not be excited about this? After being beaten for half a year, I thought Bai Yi was gone and I would finally not have to be beaten. As a result, Bai Yi failed and had to be beaten for another 2.5 years. If the fight continues, Bai Yi will not leave, and they all want to apply for early graduation. After saying that, Zephyr stood up and walked directly towards the door without any hesitation, not even looking back. This is what Bai Yi taught Zephyr: don't give the other party time to hesitate, let the other party feel your determination. If Bai Yi were here, he would definitely be full of praise for Zephyr's performance. For this performance, in modern times, it would be unjustifiable if it did not win a few statuettes. Seeing Zephyr walking so decisively, Warring States also had a headache. Bai Yi's conditions were too high, and he became Marine Lieutenant General directly after graduating from the training camp. Such a thing has never happened since the founding of the Marine Corps. But now Marine really lacks the combat power like Byakuya. When Zephyr walked to the door and thought that Bai Yejiao's method didn't seem to work, Warring States finally spoke. Zephyr, please come back and sit down first. You agreed. The conditions proposed by Bai Yi are too outrageous. If you really agree, what will you make other veteran Marine Lieutenant Generals think? Then I'd better go. Sengoku begged, can we discuss it? Marine really needs combat power like Bai Yi now. Hearing his old comrade speaking in a pleading tone, Zephyr couldn't help but soften a little. Then what do you think we should do? Warring States pondered for a while. Okay, let's give Bai Yi the rank of Marine Major General first, but I can guarantee that as long as Bai Yi makes some achievements within 1 year, I can promote him to Marine Lieutenant General. It is impossible to build a warship entirely from atom. There are so many branches that cannot be found in the entire sea. But I can provide an atom branch that can be used as a keel. When the time comes, let the boy find someone to build it. Finally, I can let Bai Yi select any 3 Marines below the rank of Lieutenant General as his subordinates. This is my biggest concession. If that doesn't work, you might as well let your boy stay for another 2.5 years. Quote, after Zhang Guo finished speaking, his eyes gradually became moist, as if there were tears, and he said in a deep voice, Marine is really difficult. Seeing that Warring States was about to cry, Zephyr couldn't bear to say, then let's go like this. I'll go back and discuss it with Bai Yi. Sengoku stretched out his hand to wipe the tears from the corners of his eyes. Well, Zephyr thanks you for your contribution to Marine. Zephyr nodded heavily. After Zephyr left, Sengoku's expression instantly became happy, and he said proudly, fight with me. Do you really think that first, the Marine Fleet Admiral, I'm so good at being a Marine Fleet Admiral? Zephyr told Bai Yi the complete conversation between him and Warring States. He said earnestly, Marine's current situation is indeed not good. The pressure from the Warring States period is also great, and the conditions offered are not bad. It would be better if he doesn't agree to it. Bai Yi looked at Zephyr, who was persuading him in front of him, and couldn't help but sigh that the Warring States Fleet Admiral was such a good method. He directly instigated teacher Zephyr to rebel. In fact, from Bai Yi's point of view, the conditions he proposed were not too high. After the war, Yi Xiao and Lu Niu, 2 conscripts from around the world, were able to directly become Marine generals. Although the current situation is far less tense than during the war, Byakuya is still a Marine with a good foundation, and his teacher is the previous General Zephyr. He himself also has strength comparable to that of a general. To get the position of Lieutenant General of Marine Headquarters, Bai Yi has a kind heart. Moreover, Warring States also directly cut Bai's other two conditions in half by more than half. Bai Yi was very unhappy. It can be seen that teacher Zephyr is still trying to persuade him earnestly. What else can Bai Yi say? Forget it, let's just do this for now. At worst, we will find more trouble for the Warring States period in the future to avenge today's revenge. Okay, teacher, you don't need to say any more, I just agree. Real, of course it's true. The teacher has already said this. What else can I say? Zephyr said happily. Actually, being promoted to Marine Lieutenant General in 1 year is extremely fast. By the way, Warring States said that you can choose any 3 people below the level of Lieutenant General. Do you have a target? Zephyr has taught students for many years, and almost half of Marine's middle and senior management have graduated from the training camp. So in this regard, he can provide Bai Yi with many suitable candidates. 3 people, of course there are. Bai Yi thought for a moment and then came up with an idea. The first choice is Smoker. Zephyr is still aware of Smoker. A user with Logia fruit ability. He graduated 1 period earlier than Bai Yi, and he graduated first in the same period. Regarding Smoker's strength, Zephyr is quite sure. After all, he is a Logia devil fruit user. Even if he is not strong in other aspects, his basic strength is here, and his starting point is high. But Zephyr still has his own worries. I understand Smoker. He has a rather unruly personality. If you transfer him to your subordinates, given his personality, he will definitely cause some trouble for you. Bai Yi smiled and said, Teacher, don't worry about this. When I was in Donghai, Smoker said that he would follow me after I graduate. So it'll be okay to bring him over. Quote, from Bai Yi's words, Zephyr heard a very important information point. When he was in the East China Sea, Smoker was willing to follow Bai Yi. At that time, Bai Yi was a lieutenant, but he was able to make Smoker, a colonel, willing to follow. I am afraid that my apprentice is anything but simple. But Zephyr doesn't care about this. Even if Bai Yi is not simple, he is still his disciple. This is my family, the less simple the better. What about the other 2 people? As for the other 2 players, I want to choose them from the training camp. Quick and Ferguson are both good. This is also Bai Yi's carefully considered choice. Rather than choosing those unfamiliar Major General Marines, it is better to choose someone who is familiar, obedient, and easy to use. After half a year of beatings, Bai Yi still understands Quick and Ferguson relatively well. These 2 were considered the leaders of the anti-white organization in the training camp. They were the first to attack Bai Yi during every end-of-month assessment. The result in exchange was naturally a severe beating from Bai Yoruichi. And it is precisely because of these severe beatings that the strength of Quick and Ferguson has greatly improved in the past 6 months. Even compared to the weaker Major General of the headquarters. That's why Bai Yi chose the 2 of them. Seeing that Bai Yi had his own considerations, Zephyr didn't say much. Just think about it. I'll let someone tell them the news and let them prepare for graduation in advance. Bai Yi said with a bad smile, I'll tell you the news in person. I think they will be very excited when they know the news. Zephyr looked at Bai Yi's evil smile helplessly, and sighed in his heart, this kid is really evil, he has to leave, and he still wants to torture others. Student dormitory. More than a dozen backbone members of the Anti-White Alliance gathered around a long table, with Quick and Ferguson sitting at the table. You should all know about the Big Devil's early graduation, right? Of course we know about such a big happy event. It is said that instructor Zephyr personally went to the Sengoku Fleet Admiral today to prepare for the graduation of the Great Demon King. A group of people were happily discussing that the Big Demon King was what they called Bai Yi in private. I have to say, it is very true. When the news came out that the Big Devil was going to graduate early, they were so excited that they couldn't sleep all night. The Big Devil is gone, and the dark clouds weighing on them are gone. Suddenly, the sky turned blue, the air became fresher, my waist and legs no longer hurt, and I no longer had to breathe heavily when going upstairs. This feeling of freedom is what they have dreamed of for the past 6 months. Just when everyone was excited, there was a knock on the door. Ferguson asked, who? The backbone of the Anti-White Alliance are all here, so no one should come. It's me. Why is this voice so familiar? It sounds like my heart suddenly trembles, and when they hear this voice, their bodies subconsciously make a defensive posture. There is only one explanation for the sound that can arouse their physical and psychological fear. It's White Knight at the door. The Anti-White Alliance was having a meeting here, and the real owner showed up. Just when everyone was hesitating whether to open the gate of opening, the door opened by itself. Bai Yi showed a gentle smile when he saw Bai Yi standing at the door. As if seeing ghosts, the dozen skeletons in the room all huddled in the corner of the room, shivering and not daring to breathe. As leaders, Quick and Ferguson mustered up the courage to stand in front of everyone, gritted their teeth and asked, Bai Yi, what are you doing here? Bai Yi said casually, I'm leaving now, so I came here to visit you. Can Bai Yi have such kindness? They won't believe it until they die. What a visit, don't want to beat them again before leaving. Bai Yi took a step into the house, and they took a step back. Seeing the eldest brother closest to the wall being squeezed, his eyes turned white. For the safety of the big brother, Bai Yi didn't go any further and just found a chair to sit down. Do you know the news that I will graduate early? Although they had known the news for a long time and were so excited that they stayed up all night, but now in front of Bai Yi, they could only lie. We just learned about this news. Congratulations to Bai Yi for graduating early. Oh, I have to leave now. I can't bear to let you go. After all, we are all classmates who have been together for half a year and have feelings for each other. Hearing this, Kuike and others all rolled their eyes at Bai Yi. If they hadn't gone through the miserable and painful days of the past 6 months, they would have really believed Bai Yi's lies. But now they can only follow Bai Yi's words. After all, Bai Yi hasn't left yet and can give them another beating at any time. Ferguson said bravely, actually, we are quite reluctant to part with you. Quick also pretended to be uncomfortable and said, if you really leave, Big Devil, you will actually be missing a spur for us. In the past 6 months, it is precisely because of you that our strength has developed so fast. Quote, yes, we will miss you after you leave. After all, you have helped us a lot. Listening to the real words of Quick and Ferguson, the dozen or so key players present almost wiped away tears collectively. Look, what is a leader? What does it mean to be responsible? What does it mean to be able to bend and stretch? As the initiators, organizers, and leaders of the Anti-White Alliance, the two people who usually scolded Bai Yi the most were actually able to say such unintentional words in front of Bai Yi today. How great is this? Bai Yi half smiled but said, do you really think so? Of course, although we don't usually say it, we all think so in our hearts. Yes, we often praise you in private, saying that you are strong and have gained a lot of faith for our training camp. Once a person breaks through his own lower limit, everything he does will become so natural. Bai Yi smiled evilly and said, then when I leave, will you miss me? Quick and Ferguson became more and more skilled as they talked. Of course I will, you are the goal of my struggle. If I hadn't graduated, I would definitely follow you. Hearing this, Bai Yi immediately stood up, making everyone shrink back again in fright. Quick and Ferguson turned pale, thinking about what they had just said wrongly. Bai Yi said eagerly, I have decided. Quick asked with a trembling heart, what to decide? Bai Yi smiled and said, it's nothing, it's just that the Warring States Fleet Admiral gave me the privilege, saying that I can choose any 3 Marines below Lieutenant General as my subordinates. Before, I was still hesitating who to choose. After all, there are only 3 places, so I must be cautious. Now after talking to you, I immediately realized that since you are so reluctant to let go of me, and I can't let go of you, why don't I use my quota on you too? From now on, you two will follow me and sail across the sea together. Wouldn't it be endless happiness? What? How the hell can you still choose someone, and you choose both of us? Thinking about the rest of their lives following Bai Yi, Quick and Ferguson's lips turned white, their eyes rolled, and they fainted on the spot. The whole place was silent. Bai Yi sighed with emotion, I didn't expect you to pass out in excitement. It seems that the relationship between us is really deep. By the way, when they wake up, tell them to report to me in 3 days. If you don't come, you will know my methods. Quote, after Bai Yi left, more than a dozen cadres looked at the unconscious Quick and Ferguson with wet eyes. Leaders are worthy of being leaders. This wave of self-sacrifice for others will make them grateful for the rest of their lives. On the day of graduation, the awarding ceremony for Bai Yi, Quick and Ferguson was completed in the training camp. According to normal graduation situations, if you want to graduate from the training camp, you need to take a graduation assessment. After passing the graduation assessment, the graduating students will be awarded medals based on their final results combined with the results of each previous monthly assessment. However, due to the special nature of Bai Yi, the assessment process was cancelled, and Quick and Ferguson did not need to participate in the assessment. Because he graduated early, the Warring States Fleet Admiral did not come to confer the title in person, but Zephyr did it on his behalf. In fact, this can be regarded as the kindness of the Warring States period to Zephyr. Zephyr's biggest dream before was to be able to personally confer a title on his son, but as a result, his whole family died tragically at the hands of pirates. Now having Zephyr confer the title on Bai Yi can be regarded as satisfying Zephyr's dream for many years. When Zephyr put Major General Marine's cloak of justice on Bai Yi, his eyes gradually became moist as he always presented himself as a tough guy. "Teacher, it's not like I will never come back after leaving the training camp. Why are you so sad?" Zephyr patted Bai Yi on the shoulder and said, "Isn't it because you don't make people worry? With your wandering character, it is easy to provoke enemies everywhere, and you will definitely suffer in the future." Bai Yi smiled and said, "It's okay. Teacher, please support me when the time comes. Our master and apprentice will definitely be able to defeat the enemy." Zephyr shook his head and said with a smile, "You kid looks up to your teacher so much." Zephyr then continued to award titles to Quick and Ferguson. The two were awarded the rank of Lieutenant Colonel in the Marine headquarters. Although the rank was not very high, it far exceeded their expectations. Even if they stay in the Marine training camp for 3 years before graduating, at most they can only get the rank of Colonel. But now, after only half a year, he has been awarded the rank of Lieutenant Colonel, which is regarded as an exceptional promotion. This was probably Sengoku's small compensation for not becoming a lieutenant general in order to comfort Bai Yi. After Quick and Ferguson accepted Zephyr's award with pale faces, they felt that nearly 600 pairs of eyes below were looking at them with the eyes of martyrs. "There is unspeakable desolation in my heart." 3 days later, Sabayati Land Island's pier. 2 rows of Marine soldiers carrying guns stood neatly on the dock, seemingly waiting for the arrival of some big shot. Not far away, a Rear Admiral Marine was slowly approaching the dock. Bai Yi leaned on the recliner, drank juice and asked boredly, "Ferguson, how long until we arrive?" Ferguson said respectfully, "Congratulations to Major General Bai Yi, he should be here in half an hour." "Well, it's going to take so long. Then I'll sleep for a while. Remember to call me when you get there." After saying that, Bai Yi put the juice on the small table beside him, closed his eyes and seemed to really fall asleep. 3 days ago, after Bai Yi was awarded the rank of Major General, he needed to guard one side to avoid pirate cholera like other Marines. Compared with the past, Major Generals like Bai Yi who had just graduated from the training camp were usually placed in the Seahai 1st Branch Base, similar to Rog Town in the East China Sea. They all need to accumulate experience in the weaker 4 seas first, and only after a certain period of time will they consider transferring to the branch base on the Grand Route. But because Bai Yi's strength far exceeds that of a normal Major General, it would be too wasteful to place him all over the world. So the Warring States period decided that Bai Yi would be stationed at the Sabayati Islands. This way it will be closer to the Marine headquarters, making it easier for Bai Yi and Master Zephyr to meet each other. If anything happens to Bai Yi due to their lack of experience, they will be able to respond faster. It can be said that the arrangement of the Warring States period took both Zephyr and Bai Yi into consideration. Bai Yi also received the World Source Power Reward for graduating early and being promoted to Major General. Congratulations to host for achieving early graduation. You will receive 1000 World Source Power Points for every half-year early graduation. The advance time is 2.5 years, and you will receive a total of 5000 World Source Power Points. Congratulations to host for becoming Lieutenant Junior grade and receiving 50 points of World Source Power. Congratulations to host for becoming a captain and gaining 100 points of World Source Power. Congratulations to host for becoming a major and gaining 500 points of World Power. Congratulations to host for becoming a colonel and gaining 1000 points of world power. Congratulations to host for becoming a brigadier general and gaining 2000 points of world power. Congratulations to host for becoming a major general and gaining 5000 points of world power. Open the system panel. Host. Baiyi. Template. One Punch Man. Saitama. Fusion degree. 19%. World source power. 13,950 points. Fusion degree 19% 20%. Requires world source power. 1000 points. Special skills. Imperial Engine. Armed Color Haki LV6+, Knowledge Color Haki LV5+. This is Baiyi's richest time since owning the system, but Baiyi is not ready to spend it all now. After leaving the training camp, he had more free time and could start many plans. The so-called Knight organization from the beginning may be able to truly show itself at the right time. However, Baiyi still spent 1000 points of world source power to increase the fusion degree to 20%. According to the previous rules, every time the fusion degree is increased by 10%, there is a chance to extract the special abilities of S-class heroes. What Baiyi wants to extract most is the telekinesis power of the tornado, which is not only very practical, but also a powerful weapon. But this is just a thought, it depends on what happens to the system. As a warm current flows into the body, the system sounds. Congratulations to the host for reaching 20% integration. You can randomly select the special abilities of the powerful in the world of One Punch Man. In Baiyi's expectation, the system sound sounded again. The extraction is completed. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the ability and swordsmanship of the S-class hero Atomic Samurai. Fencing. Baiyi felt a slight sense of disappointment in his heart, but his swordsmanship was okay for Baiyi. Just like the Marine 6th form, it can make better use of the body and launch powerful attacks. The most important thing is that using a sword is more handsome, which is more in line with Baiyi's wishes. Special skills. Imperial Engine, Armed Color Haki LV6+, Knowledge Color Haki LV5+. Swordsmanship LV9+. The full level of swordsmanship is also level 10, but Baiyi didn't expect that it would be level 9 as soon as he started. It can be believed how high the Atomic Samurai's attainments in swordsmanship are. Baiyi carefully comprehended the knowledge about swordsmanship in his mind, like a sponge greedily absorbing the surrounding water. With the help of the system, Baiyi quickly understood the swordsmanship thoroughly, and also clearly understood the Atomic Samurai's ultimate move, II/. This makes me a great swordsman. I have become one of the few sword masters on the sea. Baiyi said shamelessly and proudly, Tisk, tisk, this is so simple. You can become a great swordsman in just one nap. Why don't you make a group of people angry to death? Since he is a great swordsman, he naturally needs a famous sword that matches his status. Just as Baiyi closed his eyes and thought, Ferguson's voice rang in his ears. Major General Baiyi, we have arrived at Sabayati Island number 27. Baiyi sat up from the recliner, and quickly tied the cloak of justice behind Baiyi's back. Let's go, let me see what kind of chaos this Sabayati Islands can become. According to Sengoku, Baiyi's predecessor was a colonel in the headquarters, and when he was hunting down pirates, he was actually killed by the pirates. And it's less than half a day's journey from Marine's headquarters. At such a close distance, the colonel of the headquarters was killed in public. This was undoubtedly a serious provocation to Marine. Afterwards, Marine also pursued the pirate group that killed the colonel, but failed to catch up. That's why the Warring States period transferred Baiyi to this place. The Sabayati Islands are composed of 79 big trees. Each tree is an island, and the ground is the tree roots. From time to time, bubbles will emerge from the ground. Each tree is numbered, and the ones Baiyi is responsible for guarding are islands number 27, 28, and 29. It's what people call the lawless zone. As soon as Baiyi arrived, he felt that the illegal zone was unusual. Looking around, there were various pirate ships, slave ships, merchant ships or private ships parked on the pier. Most of the people walking on the streets are pirates and bounty hunters, with less than half being local residents. Visible chaos. The arrival of Major General Marine's ship attracted the attention of many people, and many pirates left quietly to avoid this place. After all, the Major General of the Marine Headquarters is also a middle and high-level Marine officer, and is not someone they can mess with. Bai took the people off the boat and saw 2 neat rows of Marine soldiers. This could be regarded as the legacy left to him by the previous colonel. An officer wearing a major's uniform walked out from among the soldiers. He was relatively tall and had a scar 4 to 5 centimeters long on his right face, which looked a bit ferocious. Leslie looked at the overly young boy in front of him and asked, "Are you Major General Bai?" Bai smiled and said, "Isn't the Major General uniform of Marine Headquarters on me enough to prove my identity?" "This does confirm your identity." Leslie saluted Bai and shouted, "Major Leslie and all the soldiers of the 7th Marine Branch of the Sabayati Islands have met Major General Bai." "I've met Major General Bai." The loud shouts of hundreds of people suddenly echoed through the pier, and could even be heard clearly in several nearby streets. Some pirates who were closer to Bai were shocked when they saw Bai's appearance. "Is there such a young Marine Major General? This kid looks like he's just grown up, right?" Some people are also disdainful of this. Being able to become a Marine Major General at such a young age is probably the result of someone at home helping to run it. "I guess I'm just a piece of shit. Coming to such a place, I don't know how many days I can survive." Bai didn't know what the people around him thought of him, and it didn't matter even if they did. As the saying goes, a new official has 3 things to do when he takes office. When Bai comes, he must do something to make this fire strong enough. Bai led a group of people back to the branch base. It's said to be a base, but it's actually similar to Bai's previous base on Sky Island. It is about the size of a football field and is surrounded by 20-meter-high walls. There is a 3-story building in the middle where they usually handle affairs and rest. Bai entered his own exclusive office. It was very spacious, but the decoration inside was also very simple, with only desks, chairs and filing cabinets. There is a bedroom on the back side of the office, which can be used for rest. "Major Leslie, tell me about the current situation at the base." "Yes, there are 137 soldiers in the base, 1 at the school level and 5 at the captain level." "Is there only such a small number of people?" Bai frowned. The number of people was really too small. There are at least about 300 people in an ordinary Marine base. "There are not even half of the people here," Major Leslie said with dark eyes. "More than 200 people died at the hands of pirates along with Colonel Hall. We haven't started recruiting yet, so that's the number." Bai asked curiously, "What kind of pirate group are they?" "I heard that our headquarters once sent a lieutenant general to chase the pirates, but they failed." Hearing Bai's question, Leslie's eyes suddenly turned red and her fists clenched unconsciously, looking like she wanted to say but didn't dare. Bai understood instantly when he saw it. There is a story behind this good guy. He didn't expect to encounter such a thing as soon as he arrived, and Bai wanted to know the whole story even more. "What's going on? Just tell me." Seeing that Leslie still didn't want to say anything, Bai continued, "My teacher is Mr. Zephyr, instructor. If I can't handle it, I will consider telling Mr. Zephyr." There is no way. Bai Yejian doesn't believe in himself very much. He can't say that his strength is comparable to that of a general, right? "We can only move teacher Zephyr out first." "Instructor Zephyr is your teacher?" Slaley asked in surprise. "Yes, so you can tell me boldly." Hearing Bai's vowed words, Leslie did not doubt its authenticity. "After all, you can find out such things just by asking at Marine Headquarters." "No Marine would tell such a lie," Leslie said slowly. "Actually, Colonel Hall was not chasing pirates that day, but was conducting daily patrols on the island." "Not chasing pirates?" "Well, that day, Colonel Hall and his soldiers were patrolling the island normally. He probably accidentally saw the Don Quixote family, one of the Shichibukai, conducting a secret transaction. Then all of them were silenced by the Don Quixote family." "How do you know it was the Don Quixote family that did it?" "Because I found this at the scene where Colonel Hall was killed." Slaley took out a blood-stained cloth strip the size of half a palm from his pocket, with the Don Quixote family emblem printed on it. It is different from the logo of other pirate groups. It is a round black smiley face with a slash from the upper right to the lower left in the middle. "Very easy to identify," Leslie continued. "The lieutenant general sent by the headquarters later should also have found the Don Quixote family, but because their identity belongs to the Shichibukai recognized by the government. In order to avoid causing unnecessary confusion, this matter will be left alone. Quote. Speaking of this, Leslie felt extremely painful. The pirates killed more than 200 of their marine soldiers, but they were not even qualified to take revenge. Not only that, people who meet the Don Quixote family usually need to take a detour to avoid secondary conflicts. This feeling of clearly knowing who the murderer is, but you can't do anything about it and can only watch others show off their power in front of you, makes people feel like life is worse than death. Bai Yi lamented, Marine is really rotten to the core. For Marine, the establishment of the Shichibukai system was a slap in the face given to Marine by the government in front of the whole world. The meaning of this move is that because Marine did not maintain the peace of the sea well, the government recognized the 7 big pirates as legal pirates, but Marine had nothing to do about it. Seeing that the scum who killed his friends in the past turned into an officially recognized colleague. And in order to save the face of the world government, as long as Shichibukai doesn't do too much, such as massacring the country in public, killing Marine, etc. There's no way Marine could cause trouble for Shichibukai. Just like this time, Colonel Hall and more than 200 Marine soldiers died at the hands of the Don Quixote family. Marine knew the murderer and even tracked down the murderer, but due to the identity of the murderer, he had to give up. And because the murderer didn't commit the crime in public, Marine had to help cover up his behavior. Avoid causing turmoil in the sea. It doesn't get much more cowardly than this. Bai Yi didn't believe it if warring states didn't know about this. But if Sengoku knew about this, he would transfer Bai Yi to this position, which is indeed a bit intriguing. Bai Yi thought silently, does this old guy want to use me as a gun user? Sengoku and others were dissatisfied with the Shichibukai system, but since they had promised to establish Shichibukai before, it was naturally difficult for them to oppose it now, which would arouse the government's resentment. Although the other Marines were dissatisfied, they were unable to do anything because they lacked strength and lacked someone who could take the lead. But now Bai Yi happened to show up, a Major General Marine with the strength of a general. If he had a strong conflict with Shichibukai, or even killed Shichibukai, how would the government react? Moreover, Bai Yi's master, Zephyr, also has a very high reputation in Marine. After all, 80% of the middle and high-level people in Marine came from the training camp. If one white knight is not enough, add Chief Instructor Zephyr, and some Marines who are dissatisfied with the Shichibukai system. Such a situation is enough for the government to treat with caution. Tisk tisk, as expected, no one who can become a Marine Fleet Admiral is a fuel-efficient lamp. Bai Yi was very confident in his guess. It is estimated that he is the best candidate selected by the Warring States period to eliminate the Shichibukai system. Although Bai Yi was used as a weapon by the Warring States period, Bai Yi was not dissatisfied at all, but felt that this was good. Before things reached a climax, no matter what outrageous things Bai Yi did, Warring States would naturally help him cover it up. Bai Yi still needs Marine's identity now. And as the leader in eliminating the Shichibukai system, Byakuya's prestige in Marine is naturally quite high. There are pros and cons to this matter, and the choice is in Bai Yi's hands. Are you pretending not to know and turning a deaf ear to this matter? Still started to cause trouble for the Don Quixote family and became a pioneer against the Shichibukai system. Bai Yi quickly made a decision in his mind. Bai Yi looked up at Leslie, who was full of expectations, and said with a smile, I will take care of this matter. I will avenge Colonel Hall and the other 200 Marine soldiers. Really, Leslie said happily with red eyes, don't you need to inform Mr. Zephyr, instructor? Bai Yi knew that this was something Leslie still didn't believe, that he, a major general, was qualified to take care of Shichibukai. However, Bai Yi did not defend himself, but explained, I will report it to Teacher Zephyr only after I have thoroughly investigated this matter, so you can rest assured. Leslie did not doubt Bai Yi's words. He bent down and bowed to Bai Yi and said, Colonel Leslie Daihall, thank you. The next day, a Rear Admiral Marine arrived at Sabayati Islands number 27 again. Although there were no Marine soldiers at the dock to greet him this time, it still attracted the attention of many pirates. The Major General of Marine Headquarters is not a cabbage, he can be seen everywhere. In the first half of the Grand Route, only the more important islands will be guarded by Major Generals from the Marine Headquarters. It is really abnormal for 2 major generals from the Marine headquarters to come to this place in 2 days. Major General Smoker, is Lord Byakuya here? Smoker held a cigar in his mouth and looked at the Marine base not far away with a solemn expression, his eyes filled with vicissitudes of life. Yeah, I didn't expect Bai Yi to graduate so soon. There was a bit of sadness in Daski's tone. How could it happen so fast? Half a year ago, after Bai Yi entered the training camp, Garp indeed transferred Smoker from Rogue Town to the Grand Line, letting him guard a more important island. Smoker has dealt with many pirates in the past 6 months, and his rank has been promoted from colonel to major general. He even gained the reputation of smoking man on the sea. Many pirates would take a detour when encountering him, for fear of being targeted by him. But just a week ago, he received a call, saying that Bai Yi had graduated and that he had been selected with special privileges. Putting down the phone, Smoker didn't know whether to cry or laugh. Following Bai Yi was his own choice, and he had no regrets about it. But is this too fast? It's only been half a year, and he about to be tortured by the White Knight again. Let's go. If we go late, it will be even worse. Smoker took a deep breath and walked off the boat step by step as if he were stepping onto the execution ground to die. Daski also hugged Xiao Yeyu tightly in her arms, lowered her head and followed Smoker off the boat. When the pirates around him saw the man, they were frightened to death. One of the pirates yelled and cursed in a low voice, "Why is this Smoker here? You said he is the smoke fruit user, Marine Major General Smoker. Who else could he be? How could he come to this place?" The pirates in several pirate groups have different expressions. A pirate looked at Daski behind Smoker, became lustful, and said greedily, "The girl behind Smoker is quite right." The pirate on the side looked at the speaker coldly. "That woman is a swordsman. She may have killed more pirates than you have ever seen. If you want to seek death, you can try it and see whether her knife is stronger or your neck." The excited pirate felt a chill on his neck, as if there was a real knife on his neck. A younger Major General Marine came here a few days ago, and today even the Smoker is here. It seems like something is going to happen in the Sabayati Islands. Some of the more alert pirates are already preparing to leave Sabayati. The pirates who feel that they are powerful or fearless. After all, there are no restrictions in the lawless zone. Even Marine does not dare to arrest pirates in the lawless zone. This has been an unwritten rule for many years. As long as this rule remains unchanged, they don't care about other things at all. In the White Knight office, when Bai Yi saw Smoker and Daski, there was indescribable joy in his eyes. It's not for anything else, just because there are 2 more people under his hands who can stably provide the world's source of power. Even on average, the world's source power given every day is only 1 or 2 points. But this was enough for Bai Yi. It was better than nothing. Leslie looked at Bai Yi and Smoker with some surprise. He didn't expect that they were both Marine Major Generals. Smoker was actually transferred over and became Bai Yi's subordinate. He has heard of the name Smoker. After all, he is a Logia devil fruit user. At that time, he was famous throughout the Marine Corps. But such a person actually became the subordinate of Major General Bai Yi. It seems that Instructor Zephyr really likes Major General Bai Yi as his apprentice. Yes, Leslie still thinks that Bai Yi can become Marine Major General mostly because of Chief Instructor Zephyr. After seeing Bai Yi's treatment of Smoker, Quick and Ferguson realized that Bai Yi was really good to them. What are they like in training camp? I was beaten only once a month. And what about Smoker and Dusky? Bai Yi couldn't wait to fight from early morning to the next early morning. This really means that there is no right to speak without comparison. Now when they look at Bai Yi, they all feel that Bai Yi is much more pleasing to the eye than before. The 3 conditions that the Warring States period had given to Bai Yi had now been met. Ferguson, when will the branches that can become the dragon's bones arrive? That old guy from the Warring States period won't refuse to give them, right? After learning that he was being used as a weapon by Sengoku, Bai Yi's attitude towards Sengoku became more casual. Hearing this, everyone subconsciously broke into a cold sweat. In Marine, Bai Yi and Garp are probably the only ones who dare to call me that. Ferguson said, I have inquired and it should arrive in a week. Although the Rear Admiral Marine ship is not bad, it has a sea rock at the bottom, which can avoid Poseidon-like attacks while moving. But compared with the ships made from the branches of the precious tree atom, it is still much inferior. Since you want to build a boat, then build the best boat. Will there be another week? Bai Yi pondered. Leslie, how much money does our branch have left? Leslie is also very familiar with the branch management business and blurted out Bai Yi's questions. That's all. 3 million bellies left. 3 million Baileys. Why are there only so few left? A dignified marine branch base only has 3 million Baileys left, which is not as much as the bounty offered by the larger pirates in the East China Sea. Leslie explained. Before, there were more than 80 million Baileys, but things like that happened, so almost all the money in the base was used as pensions. Everyone understood immediately. No wonder they only had so little money left. Then there's no more funding for you from above. It should be appropriated, but the specific amount has not yet been negotiated. I don't know when the money will arrive. Short of money. Very short of money. Bai Yi needed money to build ships and money to buy famous swords, but there were only 3 million Baileys left in the base, which was not enough. The money he had stolen from killing pirates in the East China Sea was used by his stingy teacher to buy equipment and repair walls. At most, there are less than 5 million Baileys left in the system space. Marine military pay is issued once a year, and there are still 4 months until the end of the year. It is obviously unreliable to wait for the military pay to be issued by then. If Bai Yi hadn't been wearing Major General Marine's uniform, he would have wanted to go out and rob someone. No wonder so many people go to sea to become pirates. It is too slow to rely on normal methods to make money. Suddenly, a light flashed in Bai Yi's eyes, and a bold idea came to his mind. Yes, I'm Marine, I can charge, reasonably. The 3 small islands under Bai Yi's jurisdiction are all lawless zones, and no one living here is clean. According to Bai Yi, even if you kill all the people on the 3 islands, the rate of manslaughter will not reach 1%. Leslie, tell all the merchants on these 3 islands that each one must hand over 10% of their profits to me every month. Ah, Leslie was dumbfounded. Isn't this collecting protection money? Bai Yi admitted with a smile. I just collect protection fees, and you told them that every account needs to be recorded, the time, place, person, and amount need to be recorded. If the profit is falsely reported at that time, the entire store will be confiscated directly. Quote, if you weren't wearing a marine uniform, I would have thought you were a pirate leader. Leslie said dully, but, there has never been such a rule. Bai Yi said casually, it was because I didn't come before, but now that I'm here, the rules will naturally have to be changed. The reason why this place was allowed to become a lawless zone in the past was mainly because the forces here were so complicated. There are people from the 4 Emperors' pirates, Shichibukai, underground forces and even the world government mixed in. It will be troublesome to move. Moreover, this is the only place for pirates to enter the New World. A large number of pirates come here every day, and there is no way to clean them all. The 4 emperors in New World would not let Marine block the entrance directly, otherwise they would lack fresh blood. Marine, on the other hand, has seen many pirate supernovas die at the hands of the 4 emperors after entering the New World. Then why are you stopping them? Isn't it easy to let pirates bite dogs? Therefore, only when all parties compromise and acquiesce to each other will a lawless zone be created. Major General Bai Yi, if we really do this, what will happen if those merchants go to other islands? Ferguson asked a more practical question. These people are not fools, they all have 2 legs. If I can't stay here, then I can just change my place. Anyway, there are a total of 29 islands in the Sabayati archipelago that belong to the lawless zone. Where doing business is not doing business. You reminded me. Bai Yi took out a phone from the drawer and called Warring States directly in front of everyone. The phone bug slightly changed its form and became the appearance of the Warring States period, with a pair of round-rimmed glasses and a goat-like beard. The telephone bug is a vivid imitation of the Warring States period. They watched Bai Yi curiously tugging on the goatee simulated by the phone bug, and their hearts couldn't help but tremble. Hey guys, this is Marine Fleet Admiral. It's Bai Yi, what's the matter with calling me? White Knight Gate of Opening E Section A plus or minus A. Warring States Fleet Admiral, I want to take charge of Islands 1 to 29 in Sabayati. You can either transfer those people to other places, or use them as my subordinates. Which of these 2 methods do you choose? Smoker and others standing aside were shocked when they saw Bai Yi's casual appearance and plain words. Is this the attitude of calling your boss? Or you calling your subordinates? The phone bug imitated Sengoku's slightly embarrassed expression. From Bai Yi's unpleasant tone, Warring States probably guessed that Bai Yi knew that he had used him as a spear user. Ahem. Bai Yi, after all, first a Marine Fleet Admiral, your superior, and your master Zephyr has been an old comrade with me for decades. Is this your attitude towards me? Bai Yi smiled and said, then should I call my master later? Let's talk about how his old comrade in arms took care of his only disciple. Quote. Hearing this, Warring States also felt a headache. This boy refused to take soft and hard advice and was really difficult to serve. Besides, this matter is indeed his fault. Warring States said in embarrassment, forget it, you are Zephyr's apprentice, and you are considered half of my apprentice, so you should take care of me. Don't bother your master with this little matter. What on earth do you want to do? Either you give me 1 billion belly as military expenses, or you give me the jurisdiction of islands 1 to 29 in Sabayati land. Bai Yi's tone could be said to be quite rude. But he has the capital to be rude, and Warring States knows this, so he chooses to use Bai Yi as a gun. And Bai Yi also knew that, so he dared to speak to Warring States so rudely. Now Bai Yi just wants a little labor fee. The phone bug looked shocked. Why don't you go grab a billion Baileys? If I weren't wearing a Marine uniform, I would really want to rob it. Warring States knew Bai Yi's strength, and also knew that if Bai Yi really wanted to steal it, there was no guarantee that the 4 emperors would really become the 5 emperors. I could only say with a headache, okay then, the jurisdiction of islands 1 to 29 in Sabayati is yours. There are 7 branch bases in total. I will inform them to follow your command. Seeing that his goal was successful, Bai Yi instantly changed into a respectful tone and said, then thank you Sengoku Fleet Admiral. My subordinates will definitely manage Sabayati Island 1 to 29 well and not let Sengoku Fleet Admiral worry about it. Bai Yi's attitude changed so quickly that even Warring States was caught off guard. Warring States was silent for a while and said, be careful and don't do it too harshly. Also, be careful yourself. Don't worry while I take care of things. After hanging up the phone, Bai Yi said proudly, look, it's such a simple thing, just make a phone call. Smoker and others remained silent. This would be easy for you. If another major general spoke to the Warring States Fleet Admiral in this tone. It may be downgraded at best, or it may be pushed into the city and closed for a few days at worst. Since Sabayati Land 1 to 29 is under our management, the previous plan remains unchanged, and a few more items need to be added. Bai Yi is going to play a big game. The next morning, the whole Sabayati land exploded. First saw Marine soldiers standing guard at the pier, on the streets, and at intersections. In addition, the new regulations announced by the Marine were posted everywhere. 1. Everyone who goes to the island needs to pay a capitation fee, 100,000 belly per person, paid once a month, and the intruder will die. 2. Ships staying at the dock need to pay a berthing fee, 1 million belly per ship, paid once a month, and trespassers will die. 3. Private fighting is not allowed on the island. If there is a need to fight, there is a ring in the center of each island. You can open it by paying 1 million belly. Anyone who fights privately will die. 4. All merchants must hand over 10% of their profits every month. And each account needs to be recorded, time, location, purchaser, and amount. If the amount is wrong, you will die. The whole store will be confiscated directly. 5. Transactions such as arms, drugs, slaves, etc. must be reported to Marine before they can be carried out. Without reporting, they will not be protected by Marine. If detected by Marine, all items will be confiscated and those who disobey the order will be killed. These 5 regulations are discussed throughout the article. Money, 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 money. Die, 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 die. After seeing the regulations, some people directly asserted that this is not about killing people, but about cannibalism. The lawless zone is full of evil people and there are no rules at all. But now someone is actually making rules in a lawless zone. This is something that has not happened in the past few decades. Even most of Bai Yi's Marine soldiers were not optimistic about Bai Yi's actions. But this was an order issued by their superiors, so they had no choice but to obey. There were soldiers distributing the new regulations everywhere on the streets. When the soldiers handed out the regulations, no one around them answered. What's more, after receiving the leaflets, they tore them into pieces and threw them directly in the soldiers' faces. For a time, the originally chaotic and lawless zone felt like they shared the same hatred. Lousy has been to the lawless zone 10 or not 20 times. I have never seen such an outrageous rule, a certain pirate captain said angrily. Is Marine crazy about money? Don't they know why this place is called a lawless zone? Pay the fee, lousy. If you have any brave brothers, how about we loot the Marine base on the island? This idea spread like wildfire in Sabayati. This news soon reached the ears of warring states, who carefully studied the rules set by Bai Yi. Not only did warring states not feel it was excessive, he even thought it was quite reasonable. Use heavy codes in troubled times. In a place like the lawless zone, they will become obedient only if they understand that disobedience will cost them their lives. But if this rule is to be implemented, I'm afraid it will encounter resistance from all sides. I don't know if Bai Yi can withstand it. Grand Line, Kingdom of Dressrosa. In a manner, Doflamingo, wearing a pink feather coat, sat at the top, and those below him were all the cadres of the Don Quixote family. What Doflamingo was holding in his hand was the new rules issued by Bai Yi on the Sabayati Islands. After reading these 5 rules, Doflamingo let out a weird laugh. Hey, it seems that the Marine who issued these 5 rules is a bit murderous. Torebel, who was sitting in the front row, said, Young Master, Marine issued such a rule in the Sabayati Islands. If it is really implemented, it may have a big impact on our business. Diamante fiddled with the sword in her hand and said nonchalantly, I heard that the one who issued the rules was just Major General Marine. How about we secretly kill him? Even if Marine finds out that it was us who did it, they can't do anything to us. Doflamingo shook his head and did not agree with Diamante's opinion. You can't take action. It is said that Bai Yi is Zephyr's apprentice. He is not weak and is not that easy to deal with. And even if we really want to take action, we can't let Marine know that it was us. Quote. Doflamingo is not afraid of Zephyr. To exaggerate, he is not even afraid of Marine. But now the deal with the beast's pirates is gradually stabilizing. What if he rashly kills Zephyr's apprentice, attracts Marine's attention, and ruins the business? Kaido really dared to kill him. Sir Bai, what are we doing out today? Tashi hugged Xiaoyi Shiger tightly and followed Bai with his head lowered. Bai Yi was not wearing marine clothes, but changed into more casual clothes. Without turning his head, Keita said, Didn't I tell you that I brought you out today to buy a famous sword? There may be many swordsmen and great swordsmen on the sea. But in terms of understanding of famous swords, none of these people can compare to Dasuke. After all, Dasuke's dream is to one day collect the famous swords in the hands of all evil people. How can I do it if I don't know enough about famous swords? So Bai Yi called Dasuke out and asked her to help choose. When he heard about buying a famous sword, Dasuke immediately became interested and approached Bai Yi with excitement, buying a famous sword. Are you going to buy it for me, Master Bai Yi? Wow, I'm so touched. Lord Bai, you are so kind to me. Forehead. Seeing Tashi's excited look, Bai Yoruichi didn't know whether he should tell the truth or not. But it's normal for Dasuke to think this way. After all, Bai Yi has almost never used a knife since the two of them met. In Dasuke's view, she was the only one among Bai Yi's men who used a knife. Now he even called her out to buy a knife. If this wasn't for her, who else could it be for? After Dasuke knew that he was buying a famous sword for himself, he began to dislike Bai Yi for walking too slowly and acted more proactively. The energy shown by Dasuke made Bai Yi feel guilty if he didn't buy her a famous sword. After visiting several weapons stores, although there were some decent knives, none of them met the standard of a good and fast knife. After wandering around several islands, the two of them didn't even see a good sharp knife, let alone a big sharp knife. From this point of view, Zoro lives up to his reputation as the protagonist. You can buy 2 good sharp knives in a small arms shop in Rogue Town. I even got Chushui and Yama at the back. Although Bai Yi knew that the sharp sword, Chu Shui, was in the hands of Yugong Moria, he didn't have the energy to get it now. At the very least, the rules of the Sabayati Islands need to be thoroughly implemented. Only in this way can Bai Yi be able to leave with peace of mind. Otherwise, if the rules set by Bai Yi were broken casually, Bai Yi would lose face. And to put it bluntly, with the current strength of Smoker and others, there is no way they can keep the situation under control. The existence of Bai Yi is the confidence to implement the rules. It wasn't until sunset that the two of them discovered a good sharp knife in a weapons store. Lord Bai Yi, look, this sword should be Feng Ming, one of the 50 swordsmanship. Dasky took Feng Ming and showed it to Bai Yi like a treasure. The blade was about 90 centimeters long, the blade was extremely sharp, the blade was longer, the arc was larger, and it was covered with light cyan patterns. Although Bai Yi didn't know much about swords before, after accepting the knowledge of swordsmanship from Atomic Samurai, you can still see something. This Feng Ming is pretty good, even if it's not as good as the big sharp knife, it's not far behind. While the two of them were watching, the shop owner on the side said in a bad tone, "Hey, hey, hey, little girl, this is the treasure of my store. If you don't buy it, don't touch it." Dasky pushed down her glasses and said forcefully, "Who said we won't buy it? Boss, how much does this knife cost?" When he heard that he wanted to buy a knife, the boss immediately put away his impatience and said with a smile, "This Feng Ming is not only one of the 50 fine and sharp knives, but also an heirloom of mine." So, before he finished speaking, he was interrupted by Bai Yi, "How much will it cost? Please give me a price." As soon as the boss opened his mouth, he told Feng Ming that it was extremely important, and it was obvious that he wanted to increase the price. The boss saw that Dasky really liked this knife, his eyes flashed, he showed a lewd smile, rubbed his hands and said, 8 million Baileys. Dasky exclaimed, 8 million Baileys. Your price is too high, right? Bai Yi on the side couldn't help but frown when he heard the price. Generally speaking, the approximate price of a 50-50 quality sharp knife is around 2 to 3 million Bailey. To exaggerate, it would be 5 million Baileys. It is absolutely impossible to exceed this price. The price of a large sharp knife with 21 labors fluctuates around 10 to 20 million. Don't look at the fact that any devil fruit can be sold for a high price of 100 million. That's because devil fruit can cause earth-shaking changes in the strength of ordinary people if it falls into the hands of ordinary people. And if you give an ordinary person a famous knife, to him it is just a sharp kitchen knife. The improvement in strength is almost zero, and the effect is negligible. This is also the reason why famous swords on the sea are generally not expensive. The boss obviously saw that Dasky liked the knife very much and wanted to cheat them, so he directly raised the price to such a high price. It's not too high. This is my family heirloom, and there are only 50 of them in the sea. It is extremely rare to encounter one. The boss explained with a smile. But, the price. Although Dasky couldn't let go of Feng Ming, she also knew the situation of Bai and the base. Not to mention 8 million Baileys, 3 million Baileys is enough to be taken out at once. When a kind-hearted child like Dasky is still struggling with lack of money. Bringing the evil one, Bai Yi has already begun to write down the name of the store and its specific location. It's not that Bai Yi didn't want to rob him, but Bai Yi gave up the idea. There is no need, because he wants to make the Sabayati Islands a place with rules, even if the rules are set by him. But he still has to respect his own rules a little. Besides, how cheap is it to rob by yourself? Marine will be sent directly later to say that the boss is suspected of arms business and did not report to Marine. He will be taken away and locked up, and the entire store will be confiscated. This not only saves money on buying knives, but also serves as a warning to the monkeys. Let other stores see the consequences of violating the regulations, and it will serve multiple purposes. Just as Bai Yi was thinking, the boss's evil eyes suddenly glanced at Dasky's arms. Of course, this is not because the boss is lustful, but because Tashi is holding a big sharp knife in his arms, Xiaoyi Shigur of the 21st worker. The price of a fast knife is 7 or 8 times higher than that of a good knife. The boss's mind became active as soon as he saw it. Then he looked at the man and woman in front of him. The man was handsome and the woman was pretty. They looked harmless and dressed like ordinary people. And he was so confused when he heard about 8 million berries, so he definitely wasn't a powerful person. 100% profit is enough to make people take desperate risks. What's more, this is a business without capital. The boss smiled and said, if you really want it, I can give you a cheaper price. Dasky, a silly girl, was overjoyed and said, "Really? Boss, you are such a good person." While the two were talking, Bai had already noticed that something was wrong. Bang! With a sound, the door behind the two people was closed. The store instantly became pitch black, with only 2 candles flickering, emitting a faint light, and the atmosphere suddenly became strange. Although Bai has never experienced it, he has read so many novels and TV series. Seeing this situation, I instantly understood what the boss wanted to do. Those who do business in the helpless area are not serious people after all. But that right, who would do business in a lawless zone? However, the silly girl didn't realize that something was wrong. She hugged Feng Ming and said sillily, Hey, boss, how much cheaper can you give us? If it's much cheaper, we will buy it." Bai almost laughed out loud. In all his years as a pirate, he had never seen such a nervous girl. Even the boss was amused by Daski's silly questions. Isn't this girl in front of me a fool? Although it doesn't sound good to bully a fool, it is for the purpose of making money and is not shabby. The boss smiled and said, "How about I give it to you for free?" During the conversation, the boss pulled out the long knife from under the cabinet, and 4 burly men came out from the back room, holding weapons and surrounding Bai and Daski with ferocious faces. At this time, no matter how nervous Daski is, it's time to react. Daski asked blankly, "You want to rob us?" The boss picked up the long knife and pretended to cut it, and said greedily, "Hand over Xiaoyi Shiger in your arms, otherwise you two will never leave the store alive today." Daski was not worried but happy, holding Bai Yi's arm and jumping up and down, excitedly saying, "Sir Bai Yi, he actually wants to rob us. Then we can justifiably arrest them and confiscate all these weapons, so we don't have to spend money to buy them. We don't have the money to buy it anyway." Quote, "Well, there is no good person in the room. Even Daski, who looks naive and silly, is also a sinister group. Oh, what a scum in the army." Bai Yi sighed, "In the future, my soldiers will not become pirates wearing marine uniforms, right?" Now it's the boss's turn to be dumbfounded. "What's going on? You two are surrounded by 5 of us, and you actually look very excited." Now that the matter has come to this, the boss doesn't care so much anymore and sternly says, "Doesn't. No matter what the identities of the 2 people in front of you are, they must be killed first." With Daski here, Bai Yi was naturally too lazy to take action. If the boss takes action in everything, what do you want these younger brothers to do? Are you shouting 666 from the side? Daski entered the serious mode, no longer the naive look before, and an aura unique to the swordsman emerged spontaneously. When Shi Yeyu's sword came out, a cold light flashed through, killing 4 big men in an instant. Crack! The knife in the boss's hand broke into 2 halves, and Shi Yeyu's thin blade lay across the boss's neck. "Sir Bai, do you want to kill this guy?" The boss fell to his knees, kowtowed and begged. "Don't kill me. Don't kill me. It was only because of my obsession that I attacked you too. I can give you everything in the store. I also have 20 million Baileys hidden somewhere else. As long as you let me go, I'm willing to tell you the location." How could he have imagined that this innocent-looking girl could be so powerful? Bai Yi thought for a while and said, "If we don't kill him yet, let Smoker come over and seal the store, take the boss back and imprison him, and move all the things back." "Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir." When the boss saw that Bai Yi wouldn't kill him, he thought he had saved his life and was immediately excited. But if he knew Bai Yi's plan, he would probably think it was better to be killed here. By the time the 2 of them walked to the base, it was already midnight. Although it was late at night, Daski didn't show any signs of sleepiness and couldn't put it down while holding Feng Ming. Bai Yi coughed and said, "Bring it." "Ah, what are you getting?" Daski subconsciously hugged Xiaoyi Shiger and Feng Ming tightly in his arms. To her, nothing is more important than these 2 famous swords. Seeing Daski's appearance like a kitten protecting its food, Bai hit Daski on the head angrily. "Oh, it hurts so much." Daski rubbed her head with one hand, hugged the 2 knives tightly with the other, puffed her mouth, like a hamster, and looked at Bai Yi pitifully. "It seems that if Bai Yi says another word, I will burst into tears." Bai Yi said helplessly, "Give Feng Ming to me as a loan. I will return Feng Ming to you when I find a better knife." Seeing that Daski seemed to want to say something else, Bai Yi raised his eyebrows and said, if you don't lend it to me, your daily training volume will be doubled, and you will have personal, special training from me every day. It's up to you. Quote, although Bai Yi's special training can be regarded as training, most of them were beaten unilaterally. And Bai Yi also said that this was to train their resistance ability and promote the cultivation of armed domineering. Smoker and others felt uncomfortable as soon as they heard Bai Yi's special training. However, there is a saying that being beaten can indeed promote the cultivation of armed domineering. When he saw Bai Yi, he said he was borrowing it, and even threatened him with special training. Okay, then I'll lend it. I'll give it to you. You must remember to return it. Ah. Then Dasky reluctantly handed Feng Ming to Bai Yi, with a look as if Bai Yi had snatched her biological son away from her. For a moment, Bai Yi felt guilty, feeling that he had gone too far. However, Bai Yi then thought about it and realized that he was not a good person in the first place, and he felt guilty as a hammer. After taking Feng Ming, Bai Yi hung it on his waist, and his whole aura suddenly changed. If I had to say that I felt like a good young master in troubled times before, now I feel like a swordsman wandering the sea. Along the way, Bai Yi could still hear Dasky's unwilling whisper from time to time. You obviously don't know how to use a sword, but you have to show off with a famous sword. It's really arrogant. Dasky looked at Feng Ming several more times and said sincerely. But Mr. Bai Yi feels much more handsome after putting on the sword. When Bai Yi heard this, she smiled and said nothing. This is what a woman is. Next day, early morning, Bai Yi asked Ferguson, how's it going? Have you found the location where the weapons store owner hid the money? Well, he explained when he came yesterday that the soldiers sent out have found it. Everything in the weapons store has also been put into the armory. Ferguson felt like a butler under White Knight. There is no way. Smoker and Quick don't like to use their brains, Dusky is often confused, and Leslie is too weak. In this way, only Ferguson is more suitable. By the way, Major General Bai Yi, now that the money has been found, is the boss going to let it go? Bai Yi smiled and said, it's impossible to let him go. Just don't kill him now. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.